like to call to order the Spark City Council meeting of, when is this, Monday, August 24th, 2015, with a roll call, please. Oh, sorry, Teresa. Yikes. No problem. My fault. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
Mayor Martini.
Here.
Council members Ratty. Here. Lawson. Absent. Smith.
Here.
Bybee. Here. Schmidt. Absent. City Attorney Adams. Here. City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, if you'd all stand for the invocation speaker, we have Rebecca Upal. I hope I pronounced that right, from the University of Nevada Secular Student Alliance. Is Rebecca here? No Rebecca? Okay, seeing that we have no invocation, why don't we do a moment of silence for our troops who are in harm's way and fighting for our rights. Thank you. Thank you. If you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ms. Ratty, would you lead us?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, now we have public comment. This public comment is on any subject that you want. If you want to speak under public comment number 4, please fill out one of these cards and we'll get you up here. You have 3 minutes. So we'll start with Richard Simmons, followed by Carol Blum. If you'll be ready to go, please, when I call your name again.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. For the record, I'm Dr. Richard Simmons. I'm a Nevada licensed veterinarian and vice chair of the Washoe County Animal Control Board. But I also want to emphasize, as usual, that I'm speaking here for myself and not representing the board or any other of the organizations I'm associated with. Since I've previously spoken to you regarding my objections, I thought I would simply add here today that what you've heard about the trap neuter release situation, you're probably not going to hear anything new today. I have provided a written statement in addition, including from me, but I would ask that you keep in mind and perhaps, if you possibly can, vote on facts, and the facts are that feral cats pose a significant public health hazard. They're a significant nuisance. The establishment of the colonies are done without the consent of the residents and the property owners for which are impacted. And I just, again, would ask that you vote with facts and not emotion. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You know, and let me make an announcement, too, before we get into this too deep. Keep your comments as brief as you can because we've got a lot of people that want to speak. If someone has made a point before, please just, kind of reiterate that point quickly and say, I agree with so-and-so. And please, this is not a personal deal, okay? It's emotional, I understand that. It's emotionally charged. There's passionate people both sides of this, so we're not here to disparage anyone. I would not like to see anyone say anything personal about me is okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. But any one of the citizens that is making a comment, if somebody makes a comment you don't believe, you don't like, you can say you don't like it, but don't disparage them personally. If we can stay away from that, I would appreciate it. And all your comments should be directed to this board up here, just us, not to somebody in the audience because they said something you didn't like. And again, let's be civil about this. Like I said, I know everybody's passionate one way or the other. We all are. So let's keep it civil. We're still all friends here, and we're all citizens of Sparks, and we all mean well in what we say. So if you could please do that, I would appreciate it. So I have Carol, is it Blum? Bloom, okay. Followed by Karen Jacobs. Karen Jacobs, yes.
Okay, I'm going to try and get through this really fast. This is my first time speaking in front of a city council.
Just relax. There's only 2 million people watching you. It's not a problem.
I'm here before you today to discuss the issue of feral cats. Too often when the topic comes out, it becomes a very emotional, highly charged, derisive debate, and in the process, an important aspect is frequently overlooked, which is that people who are for feral cats and people who are against feral cats actually have the exact same goal, which is to eradicate the feral cat population. So that in and of itself is great news. We all want the same thing, so now we just have to figure out how to do it, which is where we tend to divide into two basic groups. Those who support catch and kill, a euthanasia-based approach, and those who support TNRM, trap, neuter, return, monitor, a caretaker, attrition through controlling reproduction-based approach. With catch and kill, we have an approach that dates back over 300 years to colonial times when animals roaming loose were collected by the pound and you had to pay the pound master to get them back. Unfortunately, they quickly discovered that while people needed their livestock back, they frequently decided to forego paying the fee to get their cats and dogs back. So the pounds had to start euthanizing the unwanted animals they had collected. And that approach of catching and killing unwanted animals continued for the next 300 some odd years. The problem is it didn't decrease the population of unwanted animals. They increased so much so that by 1970s, the United States was euthanizing approximately 20 million dogs and cats annually at a tremendous cost to cities, and that number was only rising. The 70s is when people started to support spaying and neutering. Shelters started doing it, low-cost clinics were started, veterinarians encouraged it, and it started working. In fact, it started working great, so much so that today the number of healthy but unwanted animals that are euthanized are around 2.5 million, which is about 12% of what it was in the 70s. And that's an amazing success rate. In fact, it's so successful that we rarely see truly feral dogs roaming throughout the city. They're larger, easier to spot. Cats, on the other hand, present a more difficult challenge. Cats are very skilled at returning to a feral state and avoiding humans, even within the confines of a modern city. So the question became not whether spaying and neutering was successful, it clearly was. The question became, how do we spay and neuter feral cats in large enough numbers when they are so skilled at avoiding us? And that gave birth to the TNRM movement. By providing the cats with a stable food source and building trust with them, it became easier to trap them. Now, I realize some people will think, that's great. If we've gotten better at trapping them, why can't we just use that opportunity to euthanize them? However, it turns out the answer is we can't, because humans quite simply can't be everywhere at once. If you euthanize all the cats in one area, by the time you head to the next area, new cats are already showing back up in the area that you left. The success of TNRM is that it enlists the assistance of the cats to aid us in doing what we cannot. In exchange for being fed and cared for, the TNRM cats that can no longer reproduce watch over their territories and prevent new cats that are able to breed from taking up residence. This allows us to move on to other areas that haven't been addressed yet. TNRM cats are like little tiny security guards working for you round the clock, and that is the reason we're finally seeing a reduction in the feral cat population. I understand that people get frustrated and impatient and just want the feral cat problem to be solved, but this is a problem that was over 300 years in the making. And can I finish one little paragraph?
Thank you. I took some of your time, so go ahead.
Thank you. 300 years in
quickly.
the making, and it cannot be fixed overnight. However, the amount of progress that has been made in the last 40 years has been astounding. We are simply asking for people's patience while we address this last piece of the puzzle. Well, when the choice is between killing cats and an antiquated, unsuccessful approach to controlling the population and managed care that allows the existing cats to be given respect and safety while successfully decreasing their numbers, I think it is pretty obvious that TNRM allows us to advance our city in a positive direction by supporting the only approach that has proven successful and has also the added benefit of being compassionate. Please support spaying and neutering, and please support TNRM.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very much. I hope I did that all
Now, I
right.
want you to know that our city clerk has a good sense of humor today. She brought us some candy. It's a little Hello Kitty, so. I mean, she's got a great sense of humor. So, are you Karen? Karen Jacobs?
I am.
Followed by Bob on my glasses. Go ahead, Karen.
For the record,
Just speak up. It's on.
my name is Karen Jacobs, and I have an organization called Tactical Team for the Protection of Animals, All Animals, TTPA. And what this is myself and other police officers are going to start going into the schools, public and private, and teaching animal protection so that kids don't abuse animals. And I'm here today for the feral cats. We are here today because apparently some people think that the feral cats in Sparks should be euthanized. This is a slippery slope, everyone. If this ordinance is passed here in Sparks, Nevada, what's to keep it from going from city to city or county to county? We must leave the feral cats in their colonies alone. These cats have caretakers who feed them and get them medical care when needed. And our local Humane Society does TNR, as well as other rescues. This is a proven program all over the United States. To take the lives of these cats is considered animal cruelty. Their lives matter too, just like your life and mine. If you do not allow feral cat caretakers to care for these cats and they are starved or not able to get medical care, that is considered torture, animal cruelty, and animal abuse. How can we as humans allow this to take place? Starting in 2016 and going forward, the FBI has passed a law now where it will be a Class A felony to abuse animals. This means anybody, including an ordinance, that would prevent the care of animals under the care of a caretaker. Starvation and no medical care could be considered cruelty, should be considered cruelty to animals. And I'm quite sure it's illegal to kill a healthy cat just because it's labeled a feral. Feral cats pose no health hazard to the public. However, what can pose a health hazard are rodents, mice, raccoons, birds. So I ask you, City of Sparks, do you want the United States to view this beautiful city as a kind city to its feral population, or one that just wants to euthanize them because they were born feral? What goes down here today will in fact be in our bylaws, ordinances, and laws on the books. It will either infect how we do business, or rather how we should do the business of being kind with empathy towards feral cats who ask for nothing more than shelter, food, medical care, and kindness. Tactical Team for the Protection of Animals, All Animals. TTPA is coming to your public schools. Do we as officers teach the students that it is okay to kill feral cats but not domestic cats? No, of course not. A domestic cat is a feral cat that has been socialized by people. In closing, let the feral cats live their life like you have been granted to live yours. Kindness goes a long way. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Bob Brenner, is it Brenner? Followed by Jennifer Newmark, or is it Newman? Newmark. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Bob Bruner speaking for myself. I'm against the cat colony program. The Humane Society Charter in 1932 was written to address the cruelty of abandoned domestic animals. Their current mission statement is good life in a good home. And they're using this abandonment program to get additional funds. And I think that's wrong. NRS already has on the books laws against abandonment and cruelty. We know here in Nevada that not every year certainly, but in many years we get 2, 3, 4 feet of snow and below zero temperatures for a couple of weeks on end. And to abandon a previously domestic animal in those situations with no food and no shelter is cruel and unusual. Cats do carry rabies when they get out there. This program does not adequately address that. And in closing, the Nevada Department of Wildlife has a responsibility for wildlife in the state of Nevada. And I don't believe you have the authority to negatively impact Nevada's wildlife in this way.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer Newmarks, followed by Rick Gardner. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Newmark. I'm the Diversity Division Administrator for the Nevada Department of Wildlife. NDOW supports the proposed ordinance change to prohibit feral cat colonies. We are very concerned with the serious negative effects of feral cats on native wildlife, both because of direct predation and disease transmission. Feral and free-ranging domestic cats are exotic species to North America. Exotic species are recognized as one of the most widespread and serious threats to the integrity of native wildlife populations and natural ecosystems. A growing body of literature is increasingly documenting these effects. For example, a 2013 study showed that feral cats are responsible for an estimated 1.4 to 3.7 billion, with a B, bird deaths and 6.9 to 20.7 billion mammal deaths annually in the United States. The majority of these birds are protected by federal law under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. The impact of predation by feral cats not only affects species by direct predation, but also increases competition with native predators for the same prey populations. In addition to predation, NDOW is seriously concerned about disease transmission, both for human and wildlife populations. Diseases such as rabies and toxoplasmosis may be transmitted to humans and wildlife, and feral cats have been identified as vectors for avian flu. One-time vaccinations do not adequately solve the disease issue. As any pet owner knows, cats need to get rabies shots periodically over their lifespan to make sure that they maintain immunity against this disease. Feral cats should not be released after capture for many reasons, including their impact on native wildlife and their own well-being. However, if cats must be released, at a minimum, feral cat colonies should be prohibited near or in any conservation area, state or federal lands, including National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, and BLM land, wetlands, or any other lands managed for wildlife. Additionally, any colony should be adequately tracked and monitored, documenting the numbers of cats, the conditions of those cats, and a decrease in numbers over time. All colony locations should be maintained in a central database with a central point of contact. These measures can help minimize the impacts that feral cats have on our native wildlife. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Is it Rick Gardner? Followed by Deborah Banks.
Mr. Mayor, council people, I am Rick Gardner. I represent the DeAndrea Community Association. I'm their community manager. On March 9th, our attorney hand-delivered a letter to the city regarding the design handbook, the DeAndrea Design Handbook. And on May 5th, our board president sent a follow-up letter asking for the city to acknowledge and respond to the letter of March 9th. We have not received acknowledgement that you've even received the letters formally, nor an answer in almost 6 months. I think that's unconscionable for a city to ignore an association of 1,200 homeowners, potentially 2,400 voters. And my board of directors would like to know when we'll get formal acknowledgement and an answer to our letter.
Okay, we'll have Mr. Driscoll, if you'd take Mr. Gardner's name, and then we'll have somebody contact him, because I'm not sure what the letter's about or what it's for, have not heard about it, so someone will Steve will put it down, and someone will contact you. Trust me on this one, okay?
Thank you.
I don't know what this problem is, but we'll get it rectified.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Deborah Banks.
Mayor, council people, my name is Deborah Banks. I live in Sparks, Nevada. To kill or not to kill? That is the question. There is passion on both sides of the equation, although if you examine the local data, you will find the following. At the Washoe County Commissioners' Animal Services Ordinance meetings, 89% of the commenters were for TNR and 11% were opposed. During the 2015 legislative session, there were 146 comments made into the online system. 107, or 74%, were for AB 261, and 39, or 26%, were against. In both cases, the majority of commenters were for TNR and, by extension, the no-kill philosophy. You are now poised to take that away. By passing this zoning code change, you will be responsible for doing away with the no-kill philosophy in this county and turn back the clock to a more primitive time when animals were considered property and not fully feeling sentient beings. Much has been made of the hard life that outside cats have, and so should be rounded up and killed. All animals that live outside have hard lives. They get hit by cars, they get poisoned, they get trapped, etc. Should we round them up and kill them? That could be the Nevada wildlife position. We, humans, caused this problem, so it is up to us to solve it. But the solution you are now proposing is to trap and kill, which is only one side of the story. I strongly suggest that you eliminate subsection C under section 20.03.005 from the zoning code, which is prohibited practices, and join with Washoe County into being a safe place for animals. If you can't do that, then hold the meetings and really try to work out the differences between the proponents of no-kill, kill communities so that a compromise can be reached. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Now, I have no more comment cards under number 4. I do have quite a few under the agenda item 11.1. Did you want to speak now, or what's your name? To speak under number 4 or to speak under number 11? Marcia? Yes. Come on up. There's no number on here. That's why we didn't get it. And I have another one for Geraldine. Geraldine Ruger? Rogers? No? Okay. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, Marcia.
Okay. Well, my name is Marcia Thompson. Representing myself, for the record, I'm a dog person, but my best friend and my daughter adopted feral cats, so they do get adopted. And my personal experience, being raised right here on this block, is that a couple years ago, I think we started with killing squirrels, and now it's escalated to cats, and I just want to stop the trend. As Nevadans, we're pretty used to being at the bottom of the list of all the good stuff and the top of the list of all the bad stuff, but I think for once we are a shining example of humane, compassionate, reasonable, and respectful treatment of animals via the no-kill shelter, the no-kill shelter designation in 2006. I'm just citing a couple things from an email I sent to all of you this morning, but I wanted to go on the record just to highlight a few of those points. I think this is a very important factor and a very important thing to be proud of in this area. The success is a result of public support, philanthropic efforts, and the outstanding hard work and cooperation between Washoe County Animal Services and the Nevada Humane Society. My understanding is that we also receive federal dollars which enhance all the work that is done here locally, which I think is admirable. So I do not support changing the way things are now. I think we need to support more of this no-kill shelter concept, dogs and cats, and I would implore you to partner with the experts in the field here. I'm very impressed with Kevin, who's the director of the Humane Society. I think he's one of the best things that ever happened to this area. He's highly respected, and I think we need to trust and consult with him and his crew to learn more about this, to make sure that we keep this designation, because I want to be considered a humane city, county, and state, and not just kill, which is way too much of that going on in the whole world. And, you know, it's like when the enemies, you don't protect enemies, you're like people in other countries, or your friends or whatever, others from the bad guys. Well, the bad guys sometimes come and get you, so I think we need to stand up for these feral cats and admit that the problem really isn't cats, it's humans. And I really think we've got a lot bigger problem than feral cats, and I think it can be resolved in a humane way and keep us as a no-kill No Shelter Kill Shelter, because I think it's something to be very proud of. And I grew up right here before this place was even here. It used to be Burgess Baseball Park. I used to play here. So I'm pretty invested in Sparks, and I want to continue to be proud of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you Geraldine? Geraldine, is it Rogers, Ruger?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I support TNO. No one has been able to establish the exact number of feral cats. Are there 20,000 cats, 100,000 cats, 100 cats? I mean, how do you count these cats? You can be counting the same black cat or tabby cat numerous times over and over again. So, please let me establish the fact of how many cats there are. We really don't know. And why are we condemning the people who are trying to help the cats when we should be commending them and give our support? Now, I'm also responsible for a feral cat that showed up on my front porch, and he was pretty beat up. He was hungry. I started to feed him, and then I noticed that he was not fixed. So I was able to gain his trust, had him fixed and all his shots. I kept him on my enclosed back porch until he recovered from his surgery, and when he was starting to feel better, he let me know that he wanted out. I didn't know if he would come back, but he did come back, and I continued to feed and watch over him. He looks 100 times better since he had his surgery and had all his shots. He doesn't have the cuts and scrapes that he had, and that's because of the mating ritual that they go through, so now he doesn't go through that anymore. He looks healthy. Again, he had his rabies shots, all his shots, and I'm slowly regaining his trust again. What I don't understand, instead of creating this atmosphere of hysterics that we've created and going back to the dark ages, we need to set up workshops. We need to have programs to help the caregivers who are giving care to the cats. We also need to educate the public because they don't understand anything that's happening about these cats, and they really need to be educated. I think that's our duty, and that's what we should be paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else under number 4? Last time? Okay, let's move on to number 5, approval of the agenda. And if whoever makes the motion, I'd like to do 9.8 after 10.2. So any other changes?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we need to address the table.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we do the agenda, please. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, okay. 5.1, tabled from July 27, 2015 City Council meeting. Consideration to remove from the table item number 9.1, consideration and possible approval of a parking agreement AC 517A between the City of Sparks, Redevelopment Agency of the City of Sparks, and Century Theaters, Inc. for use of the Victorian Square parking structure adjacent to the movie theater. So I guess I just need a motion from someone to remove this from the table. Mr. Smith.
I move to call from the table the item labeled at the July 27, 2015 council meeting, consideration and possible approval of a parking agreement AC 517A between the City of Sparks and the Redevelopment Agency of Sparks.
Ms. Ratty.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilwoman Ratty to remove from the table item 9.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Mr. Smith. Yeah. Passes unanimously. And for those of you in the audience or on TV, realize that everything will have to pass today 3-0, because that is considered 3 people is considered a quorum for the Sparks City Council. So now, approval of the agenda. Again, I would like to ask that whoever makes the motion take 9.8 after 10.2. Anyone else have anything they want to move? Ms. Ratty.
Move to approve the agenda, moving item 9.8 after item 10.2.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Ratty, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on. Consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting on August 10, 2015. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the approval of the regular Sparks City Council meeting on August 10th to approve the minutes.
Ms. Ratty.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Bybee, seconded by Councilwoman Ratty to approve the minutes of August 10, 2015. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Next is 7.1 Proclamation, 50th Anniversary of Constitution Week. Is there someone here to accept this? Come on down, please. I'll read it and then I'll present it to you. How are you? What is your name, please? What is your name, please?
Linda Szyminski.
Linda, thank you for being here. Whereas September 17, 2015 marks the 228th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas 2015 is the 60th anniversary of Constitution Week, the celebration of the Constitution was started by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1955. DAR petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th through the 23rd to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week. The resolution was adopted by the U.S. Congress and signed into law on August 2nd, 1956 by then-President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Gino R. Martini, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. Thank you.
Thank you for welcoming me to our meeting today. I've been in Reno area for 5 years from Southern California. And at that time, I knew everyone on the city council, a little town called Glendora near Pasadena, Covina. And I'm impressed by the number of people that turned out today. Their meetings were always at nighttime.
It's like this for every meeting.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyhow, what a nice, warm, willing look of faces here. I've been in DAR for about 40 years. I'm a retired middle school teacher. I taught history. I taught the Constitution. I loved having the students get up and learn the preamble and all the parts of the Constitution. And just in the last week or two with the presidential candidates, it's really being talked about, Amendment 14, and everyone is getting excited. And I thank you for the City of Sparks and all the good work you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next 7.2 EDON update by Mike Kazmierski. You didn't know we'd have this many people here for you, did you, Mike? Welcome. Hey, pay attention, Ratty. Maybe you better move down one so he can poke you to keep you awake. Holy cow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
See, it's a mile long.
And a half a mile wide.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Pressure's on, Teresa. Mike, did you come here to talk about feral cats too?
You can blame EDON for a lot of things, but feral cats is not one of them.
Okay.
So. We're going to try the flash drive, but in the meantime, what I passed out was the new and improved strategic plan for the region. And as you may recall, about 3.5 years ago, we started working together as a region to develop a strategy for economic development. What the result was a community economic development strategy that we have implemented over the last 3.5 years with a focus on attracting companies to the region, retaining our existing companies, and growing our entrepreneurial ecosystem. That plan has been very successful because the region has really worked very well together to promote what we have here to offer, which is a great place for business. The new plan has been updated to reflect the results of that success. The results include, obviously, an increased need for quality workforce. So we added a new objective, workforce development and attraction. You'll see that as objective 4. And then the 5th in our strategic plan that we handed out, the 5th one was community development. How are we growing the community to make sure the community can accommodate this kind of growth? So the strategic plan will be used in the next couple of years as our adjusted strategy as we go forward. And so as you look at that, you've got the first, that's literally hot off the presses, the very first copy of the strategic plan. So again, it is our roadmap going forward, and we did connect with the entire community to accommodate the change. Teresa's looking for help, I think. We can see it here.
Council has it on their iPads. It's on there, and I will get back to you.
Okay.
So it's under the presentation tab.
Okay, well, you've got this copy here, so I'll talk through the handout version and start really by the new Reno Sparks, which has a focus on what we have with the new region. Tesla and Switch are a big part of that. Our record job attraction, and when I say record, off the charts record job growth, significant rebranding efforts, which has helped our region become recognized as a great place for business. Revitalization of the downtowns, and I say that plural because our 2 downtowns are growing together. That's a good thing for the region. Housing boom driven by real demand. Many people are worried about a boom-bust cycle, and what we have is a boom driven by real jobs and not by investment and by, construction and other things that have driven our boom in the past. This is real job growth-driven boom, and it's not going to slow down. Our significant entrepreneurial growth and unprecedented connectivity. So as we go through, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these slides, unfortunately, the audience will not see the slides, but you will. The 3 leg, I'll try to explain them a little bit. The 3 legs of economic development: attracting companies, retaining companies, and growing existing entrepreneurial ecosystem. With the new strategic plan, we've overlaid that with workforce development. And when you look at workforce development, it really feeds the success of all 3 legs of economic development. The very last slide, number 5, you see our prospect visit numbers. They continue to be up. In fact, the last 2 months, 14 and 12, oh, there we go. That was easy. Let's see if I can get this out of here. Okay, sure. Next slide. Right, next. There. Prospect visits per month, I was saying this is such a great indicator because as companies get more interest in this region and visit, what we do is we show them what we have. And we use all our community resources to do that, and our closure rate continues to be between 70 and 80%. So that visit is so important. It helps us really show what we have, and companies see what we have and decide to come here, which is pretty exciting. So next slide, please. That's why you see the job growth numbers go up each year over the last several years from our 5-year average before, the dark line. Then you go 12, 13, 14, 15, and we fully expect to exceed the 15 numbers in 2016. Next slide, please. What is really exciting about this is the companies we're bringing in general, are increasing the average wage in the region. And you look at that growth, this is actual average wage increase over the last 2 years, up 10%. I can tell you the companies we attracted to the region, 2 years ago, the average wage was $32,000. This past year, $54,000. A $20,000 increase in average wage. So what that does is it drives the entire economy to a new level. Jobs that were paying 2 years ago $11 and $12 an hour, especially in logistics and distribution, are now in the 15, 16, and they're continuing to go up. So that drives our entire economy in the right direction. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of companies that have landed here in Sparks. And what we want to just emphasize is our focus is the region, attracting companies to the region. But every now and then it's good to know that a few of those land here in Sparks, and that's more than a few. I can't remember the last time, and I've looked at this for 4 years, that we've had that many companies actually land in the city of Sparks. So pretty exciting. You're getting the secondary effect of the growth around the city of Sparks, and certainly as the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center grows, there's more impact as well. But these are direct impacts in the community, $20+ an hour, over 500 jobs. So pretty exciting. Next slide, please. You all know what this is. A pretty darn big building. And when we say big, this building will be almost as big as the Pentagon when it's done. Most people don't understand the magnitude. You can see the trailers of the trucks next to it. This is about a third built. The Tesla building will be huge. So just realize the building is large. Are we good? The building, oops, I guess I'm moving over here now. The building is large, and the impact on this region is large, not just for the jobs. You see up there, it really has helped put this region on the radar nationally. And we get more and more companies that look at us differently because of this announcement. But let's not forget Switch. A lot of people don't realize what Switch is. We have a luncheon on the 24th next month that Switch will speak at. Help understand what a huge addition Switch is to this region. It'll bring thousands, what could be several thousand technology jobs to the region, but it also helps us on connectivity. It gives us high-speed connectivity for our region in a way that we really haven't had before. It adds a super loop, which is a connection of high-speed connection between Vegas and here, 0.7 nanoseconds that will allow our community to be even better connected, help us attract more business and growth of technology. As we look at our crystal ball and what's coming down the pipeline, because a lot of good things have happened in the past, and people are saying, well, is this going to continue? Well, these are all announcements that are pretty much done. In fact, and a lot of them are small, 10, 15, 50, but we like that kind of diversity. It gives a lot of options to the kinds of jobs that people can choose to work at. And remember, these are all primary jobs. For every primary job, there's at least one secondary job created as well. So you need another doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief to accommodate this primary employer growth, which is really spurring growth across our region. Like I said, these are done. These are the very top of a very long list of prospects we're working with that we think we have an excellent shot at. They're actually, as you go down this list, quite a few others that are pretty close to making a decision. We're pretty confident with the ones up there now and some further down. So we're probably looking at literally another Tesla landing in our region in the next year, and everyone goes nuts over Tesla over 5 years. We have incredible growth coming to this region in a way that we never have before. And so our concern, obviously, is that people understand and prepare for it. And as leaders in the community, I know certainly you've been in discussions on how best to do that.
Good. I have a question, Mike.
Yep.
Just a quick question. I'm noticing the states that they're coming from, and I know we've had to focus on California with our marketing efforts for such a long time, but it doesn't look like, it looks like the vast majority are not coming from California. Is that a trend that you're seeing?
It is certainly a trend. Four years ago, we hit California very hard and had probably 40 to 50% of our announcements from California. But because of our success in getting on the international radar, in fact, we have a company from Poland in our office today. So we're on the radar in a way we never have been before, and it's a technology company, by the way. It's allowing us to make our case for the Reno-Sparks region to prospects throughout the country and even the world. And the result is obviously a lot of opportunities there on landing in the region. The last slide, let me show you the last slide. You only see 3 up there from California.
Yeah.
So we're probably in the 20 to 25 versus the 40 to 50%. and a lot of other activity from other places.
Thank you.
Manufacturing, if you look back 5 years, we had almost no prospect activity in manufacturing. It's now 50+% of our prospect activity. These are advanced manufacturing jobs paying between $60,000 and $80,000 a year. These are great jobs for our kids, for our grandkids, and for our future. So the more we embrace and become an advanced manufacturing hub, the more of these kinds of companies we will attract. And then corporate headquarters, we find this is an important part of our attraction strategy. Bringing headquarters in here brings decision makers, brings a lot of high-paying jobs to the region, executives, it brings philanthropic work, it brings people in the community that can make decisions, so you're not just a corporate regional office, but you're actually that corporate headquarters. So we see this as an important addition to the region, and when we can move from 4 to 13 in a short period of time, that's good news. So that's kind of the attraction leg. A lot of good things happening in attraction. When you talk about retention, a lot of people forget about how important the companies that are here now really are. They are our economy, they're our family, they're our friends, and we've got to take care of them. What's exciting is we visit about 200 of these companies every single year, and our growth from the companies we visit is over 80%. So you don't see that in a lot of the numbers when you talk about job growth, but these companies are growing sometimes 1 and 2 people a year, in many cases more than that, and you see that kind of growth, it tells you there's a greater demand on quality workforce and a lot of other things. And then finally, our entrepreneurial leg, we're pretty excited about growing that entrepreneurial ecosystem. Startup activity, it attracts millennials, it revitalizes downtowns, it helps us become the cool place that our kids and grandkids want to be. A place where we want to be, where our technology sector wants to be. It allows us to attract companies that are really millennial rich. And Tesla is a good example, but the tech companies and the companies associated with the university are very much a part of this. So we're excited by this. You've all seen this chart before. You've heard the number 52,000. We're sticking with our number. We're pretty confident that we will see over 50,000 new jobs in this region in the next 5 years. Yes. That's a big number when the total job count right now is around 200,000. So you're looking at a fundamental shift in the way we think, in the way things happen in this community, and a lot of people are still thinking business as usual, and it's really, this is pretty different. If you look back to our rapid growth in the past, we were at 2.2% a year. Our historic growth is 1.2. Last year, we were at 3.3, and we project 4 to 5 in the next couple of years. So a big change, and we're just at the very beginning of that change. So what does that mean? This is really a preview to, I'll come by and give you a more detailed update on the EPIC report. It'll be released 1 September is the target date, Economic Planning Indicators Committee report. We have assembled all the planning organizations and government agencies in the region, and since October pretty much met every week. Steve has been there, probably be glad this committee ends because a lot. And it's been a fantastic planning effort to understand what are the impacts of this growth, where is this growth going to happen, where are the jobs, and where are the people. And the report is going to allow us to answer those questions so that each government entity can do their own planning as to what this means. Here are the organizations involved, and I can tell you a lot of time and effort went into the planning and data management of this report. Ultimately, it's going to report on the 5-county area. TRI will see the lion's share of the job growth, but the impacts are on the entire region. These are just some of the scenarios that we have pretty much agreed to. We didn't want to say, here is the answer, because we don't know the answer. These are projections. And so we laid out some criteria on projections on what we thought would be job growth between 56 and 47 and population between 42 and 64,000. And then as a company or government decides, okay, this is kind of the scenario we think is the one we want to plan around, you have all the data to do that. What you'll see in the report are these these maps that show the density of the growth in the different areas of the 5-county region with a blow-up of the Reno-Sparks area. And this shows, for example, these are jobs, employment, and this is population. And the report will go in a lot of detail on this. In fact, the draft, the main body and the draft of the report are about 200 pages. So there's plenty of data. It'll be online. It'll be available for everyone to use. And again, the launch is pretty much expected on the 1st of September, the first week of September. Any questions?
Questions or comments for Mike? Questions, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you the softball. What's your biggest concern about all this growth?
Well, you've probably seen in the RGJ a couple of articles about that. There really are 3 areas that we are most concerned with. The first is workforce, and we made workforce one of our new objectives in the strategic plan. In order to accommodate these kinds of quality jobs, we need a workforce, or at some point the word's going to get out that we're closed for business and it's going to get ugly. So workforce is a part of that. I think we will accommodate that. There are ways to do that, and we have a fairly large team assembling to work on that. And we've actually hired someone at EDAWN to help us manage the overall workforce program. So we're moving forward on workforce, but it's still a concern. The second would be housing, and you've seen the concern on housing. No, we've never experienced this kind of growth before. This kind of growth drives a need of somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 housing units a year. Last year, we built 1,500. So we're already behind. And now I say housing unit, it could be a 1,000-person apartment complex or a condo unit or something else. But even when you assemble, and I've talked to almost all the developers that are planning to build in the region, and if they all built them tomorrow, you're talking about less than 10,000 housing units, and we need somewhere around 40,000 in the next 5 years. So we have some housing concerns. If you saw the rental market recently, you noticed the prices are the highest ever, and we're at pretty much 100% occupancy rate. Well, the construction workers are filling them up. The more university students here are filling them up, and of course, people that are moving here before they can buy, or if they can buy, are filling them up. So we have literally no temporary housing or apartment availability, and then the building of houses and condos and apartments are lagging by about 2 years. So that's a concern. I think we can address that, but it's going to be ugly for a little while. And then the last one is the school infrastructure. We have a terrible issue with school infrastructure, a lot of reasons for it. I'll tell you the simple solution is we had revenue for construction was like this, and then the recession hit, dropped us down, and because we are capped on property tax increase of 3%, when you cut that value in half and then go up 3% a year, while our growth is 5% a year, we're already starting low. There's no way the 2 lines will ever meet without some kind of effort by this community to invest in our capital infrastructure. The governor's plan addressed programming and support of education at the teacher level. There's nothing locally yet to address the capital piece. So that would be the 3 things.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead, Charlene.
I just want to thank you for the work you do. You guys rock. I mean, I've been to a lot of your events, and pretty incredible to see it in action, to see the companies, big and small, that are coming here to our region. We all know what a great place this is to live, and I guess the secret's out now. So, but it's a good thing. So there will be challenges for us on the growth issue, on infrastructure and schools and roads and police and all of that, but I think it's a good problem to deal with compared to the recession that we were in, and I just want to thank you and your staff. You guys are doing amazing work, and we look forward to continue working together with you as we address the growth.
Thank you. I can tell you that the team here in Sparks has been phenomenal, 100% behind it, and working with government in a way to support business makes our job so much easier, and you really are part of a team, and I know all of the elected officials here, and I'm proud of what this community has to offer our businesses.
Ms. Reddy.
So I guess my question is, there are other economic development authorities who have worked in other cities that have had this level of success and this level of explosion. And so does the role of an economic development authority change? I mean, is there a point in time when you see the 4.5% growth for 5 years and you note the housing challenges and the school challenges and the workforce challenges? Do we stop aggressively trying to attract new companies
I-
at some point?
That's a fantastic question.
Do you work yourself out of a job?
It's really a community question, and it will be one that's talked about more and more. But what we have done is we have throttled back pretty much on any job that doesn't pay a living wage, $20 an hour or more. So we don't pursue jobs like that, and we really are looking at growing our region as an advanced manufacturing hub. So we're looking at that part of it. How do we continue to be successful in that area of growth? Because there's a synergy that draws in the technology workers, that grows a university, does research and development. There's a lot of players there. At some point, do we say we don't need any more jobs? Well, I would offer that what we have here right now is, in fact, the city of Reno. If you just look at the city of Reno and compare it to the city of Austin, Texas in 1970, we were exactly the same size. And if when Austin, Texas grew from 270,000 to 350,000, if they had closed the door, they wouldn't be what they are right now, a technology hub and a vibrant place to live and work. We have that same potential. We could be the next Austin, Texas. We just want to manage that growth and be careful what we do makes sense in the long term. So it's a challenge for the entire community to address. Our job is to bring in quality jobs. There are still people that need jobs.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, for me. Great job. It's the best D-Dunsman is the best it's ever been. And one thing that I'm really proud of with this you guys have done in the past, I think we've brought 2 jobs in the front door and let 6 go out the back because we didn't take care of retention. And one thing I'm so happy that you guys do now is have a concerted effort on retention of the people that we have here now, not just on bringing new ones in. So great job. Thank you so much for all you guys have done. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and thanks to your team. Your staff is first rate, and we enjoy working with them.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, next is 7.3. We have a presentation by the Nevada Humane Society.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council members, thanks. We'll figure this out. Okay, would you like this? Thanks so much for having me. And as Councilmember Ratty asked Mr. Kazimierski just before, I am trying to work myself out of a job, and that is Nevada Humane Society's sole purpose is to eliminate the overpopulation and abuse and cruelty and neglect of animals. And what the presentation we're going to see today is aimed at that very purpose. And so we're going to talk a lot about community cat management. And I know that you've heard a lot about this. I know as elected officials you thought you'd talk a lot about cats when you assumed your position. So I'm going to move quickly, so please interrupt me if you want me to elaborate on something further. So just about Washoe County TNRM, which of course encompasses Sparks TNRM. This began in 1999. Back then we were euthanizing about 1,800 feral cats every single year. Since then, over 30,000 cats have been spayed and neutered. And again, I'm not going to use a formula because I kind of question their efficacy, but you can go online and Google what 30,000 cat reduction prevents in population in the eventuality of time, and it's mind-blowing, the number of animals that have been prevented from being born through TNR. In 2012, this community received one of only 9 awards ever issued from Maddie's Fund for Community Life-Saving Award. The animal organizations encompassed within the collaboration, including Washoe County Regional Animal Services, cited TNR as one of the 3 leg stools of our prevention of euthanasia and the changing of this community. It's important to note also, at this point, we were 38 dogs and cats per 1,000 people, which is almost triple the national average of 14 dogs and cats per 1,000 people. And those numbers are coming down now, and by no small effort of the TNR efforts that are being undertaken by Nevada Humane Society and our partners. And again, it's important to note also, TNRM is entirely privately funded. The surgery that's done is paid for by Community Cats and Nevada Humane Society. Taxpayer dollars are not included in these surgeries. So again, if you just look at this infographic, basically what we're talking about is the massive decrease in the euthanasia of animals. And we believe that's important to everyone. Again, I don't think any of us want to be in the business of euthanizing animals unnecessarily, as well as it's important not to forget that euthanizing animals costs money, and it costs the taxpayers money, whereas TNR does not cost the taxpayers money. Oh, well, there we go. And again, one of the things what you're going to hear from us is Washoe County is the highest per capita adoption center in the United States. That's a mind-blowing number. 75,000 animals since 2007 into Washoe County in this community. That's a mind-blowing number. If you look at some of our competitors, Las Vegas is 5 adoptions per 1,000 people. If you look at, I believe Denver's 11, we're 22 adoptions per 1,000 people. So again, these are astronomical numbers, and it is part of TNR. People come to our shelter because they know they're not going to walk in to a euthanasia mill. Shelters used to be the 6th or 7th acquisition place where people acquired animals. Now we're 3rd, and we're moving up that list because we've turned shelters on their ear. It's not a sad place to go anymore. It's not a depository for the unwanted, but a place for the second chances. Our community live release rate is 93%, and that means in every shelter in Washoe County, it means if it's in Washoe County Regional Animal Services, Nevada Humane Society, means we're saving 93%. We are saving every treatable and adoptable animal in our community. In 2012, we were declared the safest place to be a dog or cat in the United States. And again, that's pretty remarkable. And EDON being here is important. We're going to talk later. This is a quality of life issue. And people want to live in a place where they can have their pets, where they can feel comfortable, where they can be proud of this community. Just, I think, 2 weeks ago, we were named in the top 10 places for pets by Wallet Hub or something, which is just another example of the top 10 list that this community makes every single year. Again, I put this infographic up here just to be clear that feral cats are a moving target. We can't take a cat, test it, and say this one's feral, this one's not. Almost 28% of the cats we transfer over from Washoe County Regional Animal Services that are deemed feral are in fact not feral. Once they get over to Nevada Humane Society, they just calm down. Cats are different from dogs. My dog would go home with any of you, and any of you can have him. But cats aren't quite like that. Cats adjust slower. And so again, we can't always tell. So if we go to a system in which we have to euthanize cats, I will promise, because it happens all over the country, we will begin euthanizing people's own cats that they let outside for the afternoon and never comes home. And a big chunk of those, my cat ran away, will become, or some chunk of that will become, euthanized at taxpayer expense unnecessarily. So if we just talk about traditional management, this is when we talk about basically catch and kill, not to be pejorative. But again, what happens is we have these unsocialized animals and we don't have the resources to trap them. Even if we take all the officers at Washoe County right now and say trap cats every day, all day, we cannot get all the cats. And the cat's ability to procreate is faster than our ability to trap them. I work for Nevada Humane Society. I love all animals. I like birds too. The simple reality is made by one of my speakers who predated me here. Whether you love cats or hate cats, there's only one solution, and it's TNR. It's the only efficacy-based approach to reducing the populations of free-roaming cats. Nevada Humane Society would love to live in a world in which there aren't feral cats, but we have to get there, and there's only one road in that direction, and that is TNR. So again, if we look at what the reality of trap and kill is, it is ineffectual. Across the board, everywhere it's ever been tried, the only place it's been successful is oceanic islands in which there's an ocean in which you can basically throw poison, and obviously that's not great for wildlife either. It does not curtail population. It's estimated, and computer modeling, that a colony left or a population left unchecked grows by 20% every single year. And again, that's without TNR. It's enormously expensive, and it's all at taxpayer expense, and it's unacceptable to the population. 27% of the population feed an outside cat. Also, according to a Harris Interactive poll, 81% of people surveyed, Americans, say they prefer TNR to the alternatives. Our population overwhelmingly supports this, and it doesn't work. That's the bottom line. Again, even if we look here, this is a quote from the president at the time of the National Animal Care and Control Association, which is typically an organization for municipal animal control agencies, that says the costs are picking up and simply euthanizing and disposing of animals is horrendous in both the philosophical and economic sense. So we talk about TNR. They're humanely trapped, They're evaluated by a veterinarian, they're spay-neutered, they are vaccinated, they're ear-tipped, they're microchipped, they're returned to their original habitat, and they're monitored. We use some GIS software to try to locate some of these colonies and know where they're at. And again, it's an important distinction. Colonies are not artificially created. I think that the concept's been forth that colonies are established, created, and maintained. These cats are already in Sparks. I'm sure some of you have seen them. We never dump cats anywhere. We don't add cats to the colony. These cats exist. It's trap, neuter, return. We bring them in, we spay, neuter them, we vaccinate them, we return them to where they are. So there isn't this, I think there's a confusing element that this is a created colony, artificially crafted by man. It's not. The fact that the cats are there is created by man, and perhaps they are an invasive species, but in this case, the residents of Sparks has created this situation in Reno, the citizens of Reno. We want to be the solution to the only the problem that we ourselves created, and that's what TNR is. And most colonies are 1 or 2 cats. If you look at who's feeding cats, most of them are 1, 2, or 3 outside cats living in their backyard. These are not the massive colonies that I think sometimes are presented. Again, if we look at the benefits, it reduces Washoe County Regional Animal Services intake and euthanasia costs, which again that's taxpayer dollars. It's cheaper and it's paid for by nonprofits. It protects public health and animal health. And again, these animals are vaccinated against rabies. Opponents are correct. It is not the second vaccine, but it's certainly better than the alternative. A vaccine, some vaccine is better than the alternative. In addition, there's not been a case of cat to human transition since 1972. And regardless of what local news stations in certain municipalities say, that's according to the CDC, and this link links directly to the tracking of rabies to animal to human rabies transmission as rated by the CDC, and there is no cat listed as the confirmed carrier. Again, it doesn't, certainly can cats carry rabies? Of course they can, but we're saying some rabies, and as well as shrinking the population. If we don't do anything about it, it will grow at 20% annually. If we TNR, we know we can reduce the population. It decreases nuisance complaints. Nuisance complaints at Washoe County Regional Animal Services are down as TNR has gone up. It stabilizes and reduces the population. Again, both at University of Florida and in Rome, and as some studies we'll see later, massive reductions in cats over time. It works. If the whole concept of this is we manage colonies down to extinction. If we simply pull the cats out, there is the vacuum effect. A lot like we hear with coyotes, other cats are going to fill the space. It reduces, as it was mentioned again in a comment previous to me, it reduces nuisance behaviors like yowling, fighting, all that kind of stuff. And again, the bottom line is it's the only efficacy-based approach. There is no other option. This is the option that's been scientifically proven to be successful. Again, I won't read these slides to you, but again, these are just some examples of the success in different parts of the community. And again, we are one of the examples. There's a slide about Washoe County just like this one that's shown in other communities as they embrace TNRM. So again, if we just look at the financial reality of TNR, the cost of nationwide eradication is estimated at $16 billion, TNR at $2 billion. It's simply the financially responsible choice as well as the humane choice. Again, the national average for housing and euthanizing a cat is $250 per cat. And again, you can do the math and see what that number gets. And again, we talked about, I put this up here just so we could talk about the numbers. I get asked pretty regularly how many cats are in Sparks or Washoe County. The answer is I have no idea. But what I can tell you is we're reducing the population using every metric that is available to me. These numbers are based on formulas in which are developed by national organizations. I'm not going to quote a formula that I didn't create, but what I can tell you is we know using every metric available, the cat population in Washoe County and in Sparks is decreasing. If you look at areas like Victorian Square, there used to be a great deal of cats. Now there's no cats, and that's been achieved through TNR efforts. Cats are not the reason birds are disappearing. Certainly, do cats sometimes kill birds? Of course they do. And again, I'm a bird lover too. We want to reduce and eventually eliminate these populations. But biologically, cats are compensatory predators. If they're being fed through a caretaker, they're not likely to kill birds. Of course, there's always exceptions. And again, this is according to the Cornell School of Ornithology. Man is by far the greatest threat to birds. And again, the idea of TNR is to reduce these populations and protect these cats as well as the native species of Nevada. We provide deterrent. If we understand that not everybody likes cats, we'll provide deterrent. Our cat action team will come out and help you try to keep cats out of your yard. We provide thousands and thousands of dollars of deterrents to people of Washoe County and Sparks every single year. Again, human interactions. Feral cats are not running up to folks. Again, if you see a feral cat in your neighborhood, they run away from you. They're vaccinated. The public health threat is reduced and protected through TNR. And again, we're trap and kill. No vaccines are administered. There is no medical oversight. Again, the reliability results from negligence, not from action. And again, the bottom line is population is reduced, which is the name of this game, I think, for all of us. We're all sitting here saying we want to reduce this population. Again, I won't read this to you because it has a great deal of numbers, but again, good policy makes good sense, and I think that's the example of this. We know TNR works. We know it works in this community. We know this community is dedicated to it by the number of people that participate in this program and the number of people that support animals in this community. This is the right policy to be pursuing, and it's been agreed upon by all the most of the animal organizations in this, including our partners at Washoe County Regional Animal Services. We've worked together over the years to make this program work and to make residents as happy as possible, which is, again, how we arrived at providing deterrent. We all work together to work this out and come up with the best case scenario for all involved. Of course, using the cats as well. Again, Washoe County is a national model, and I've said some of this before, but we've invested over $1 million in TNR efforts with some of our partners. We're going to invest $392,000 annually in these programs. We're investing tremendously in this concept, and it isn't so I can increase my funding. All of the funding I receive for this program goes right back into the community. Having a bigger budget doesn't make me richer. It costs me money to administer this program, but it is essential to saving lives. Again, here's cat intake, which is combined with Washoe County Regional Animal Services at NHS. It's going down, and it's going down precipitously, and that's, again, because of TNR. And again, if we look at our investment here in Sparks, we invest over $1 million every year in Sparks-specific resources across the board. We'll invest $212,000 in area code 89531 in this year, in 2014 and 2015 alone, and that's in free spay and neuter procedures. I receive no funding from this. This money is passed through. It goes from me, and I give it directly to the people of Sparks because spay and neuter is essential to making this community better. Washoe County has the highest adoption rate per capita in the nation, as we talked about. We're on numerous top 10 lists. Nevada Humane Society lists on over 5 top 10 shelters in the United States, and Washoe County is regularly cited as a leader in animal welfare. TNR helps us maintain that. And again, 67% of households contain pets. And again, that number is going to go up when the new study comes out, which will be in the next couple of months. This is, it's serendipitous that, again, Edon was here because this is a quality of life issue. Pets make us happier. They make us a happy community. And go downtown in Sparks, go to any of their parks in Sparks on a weekend, and you're going to see a great deal of families enjoying their pets. The protection of our pets is important to us, and this is an element of continuing this community's amazing results when it comes to animal welfare and stewardship of our community's animals. If we talk about land use concerns, we look at, a feral cat housing is not a risk. This is a picture of a feral cat enclosure. It's a styrofoam cooler with a hole cut in it with some straw, and again, that can help them survive in the colder months and again give them some space. Colony caretakers do have responsibilities. In the new Washoe County Code, those responsibilities are stepped out and stated by Washoe County. We train our caretakers how to feed. We don't want them to put food out all day, every day in endless supply. There's a way to feed and a technique to this. And again, we have several employees in Nevada Humane Society whose whole job is to help folks trap and do it effectively. Washoe County does pick up deceased animals and will pick them up and bring them in when that should happen. And again, remember, free-roaming cats are not illegal in Washoe County. There are nuisance and trespassing laws. So when people do get into issues with feral cats, there are ordinances which protect them, and we will work with them, as will Washoe County, to resolve those issues. And again, I just want to talk a little bit about Nevada Humane Society because I hope we're proud to be a partner of the city of Sparks. We've been here since 1932. As was pointed out earlier, we are one of the most effective animal organizations in the country, and we're proud of this community. We have over 8,000 active volunteers. We now have over 100 employees. We have 2,500 active volunteers, almost 9,000 adoptions in 2014, over 75,000 adoptions since 2007, and our Animal Resource Center accepts 20,000 calls, again, to help citizens of Washoe County, Northern Nevada, live with their pets more effectively. Again, here's a list of all of our programs I put our cat action team on there. Again, those are the folks, mostly volunteers who go out, help folks trap, help them lay deterrent, help them address and attack this problem so that we can work together to end free roaming cat populations in a humane but efficacy-based approach. And everything from GI Dogs to Emily's Fund, all of these programs are supported by the folks of Washoe County and Sparks and national organizations which fund us because we are a no-kill community. Should this end, so will that funding. This community will lose millions of dollars every year that aids this community in any number of ways listed by these programs. And I'm not underestimating. We're talking about at least $1 million a year that will cease to flow to this community's animal organizations. Over 15,000 animals walk through Nevada Humane Society's doors every year and are treated. And again, here's some of the areas in which we're headed. And one of the things you'll see is that I want to point out is our animal health desk has become Pets for Life, where we actually go out into the community, go door to door, and work to get animals spayed, neutered, and build bridges to our communities. And that's coming to Sparks. And that's another program that's funded by an outside organization that relies on our no-kill status. And again, just here's some of our budget information, and here's some of the information about the money that leaves over $4 million from Maddie's Fund alone, which is a funder who funds communities based on their no-kill status. Over $182,000 from Petco Foundation and $212,000 from PetSmart Charities. We are very lucky to have the support we do, but it's based upon what we've done because we follow best practices. Moreover, we invent best practices. The idea of a no-kill community, how to do it, is rooted right here in Nevada Humane Society. I get a call every week asking how you did it and show us how to do it in our communities. And TNR is one of those legs of that stool. Again, Nevada Humane Society is one of the most decorated charities, not only in Nevada, but in the country. We are highly effective and we work hard. I hope you're proud to be our partner in animal welfare. And again, we certainly are proud to be the partner of Sparks. And here's a list of some of our big funders, but again, all of those millions of dollars flow from both inside and outside this community because we want to demonstrate what an effective and a model works. We want to duplicate because we've proven this works. So, the last thing I think the most effective number when we're talking about this, we've seen a 37% reduction in cat intake in shelters, but I think the most effective since 2012, we've seen a 50% reduction in kittens. This time, maybe last year, I might have 600 or 700 kittens in my foster program. I have under 200 because these programs work. And the majority of kittens come out of feral populations and some oopsie-daisy breeding, which we hope to help through our public spay-neuter clinic. But majority of those come from feral cats, and that's the real image and the real demonstrative effect that this is working, and it has worked. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I hope that I've put additional information about TNRM and how important it is to this community, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Questions? Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kittens. Is there any effort made to catch the kittens when they first appear and adopt them out, or what do we do here?
Desperately. There's some trappers in the room who can probably tell you more about it than I. But absolutely, our goal is to get to the kittens before they grow into feral cats, get them into the shelter. There's of the 2,500 foster homes, almost all of those are kittens, and a segment of those are take what a former boss of mine used to call hizzy poppers, which are the little kittens who act real tough. And then and there's burritos and all of these different ways in which we can work with those kittens to make them become adoptable. I mean, Nevada Humane Society formerly was transitioning thousands of kittens every year into adoptable kittens. It's a lower number now, but I can tell you a little tiny black kitten tried to bite me just the other day, and that cat went into a foster home, and she'll become an adoptable kitten.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Good job.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you,
Appreciate
council
it.
members.
You bet. Okay, next we have presentation, top sponsors of the Sparks Fire Department Annual Project Safe Golf Fundraiser. Mr. King, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. It's been, I'm Fire Marshal Bob King. It's been about a year since I've been up here. I think the last time I was here was this same presentation. So I am very excited to be back again to recognize two local companies that have gone above and beyond actually quite a few times to support our largest public fire safety education program, which is Project Safe. Residential smoke alarm program. I'm sure you've heard of that just a few times. Your packet that you have contains quite a bit of information, but for the viewers and people in the audience, I'd just like to go over a couple tidbits for them. Project Safe Residential Smoke Alarm Program has expanded to be one of the largest and most successful residential fire safety programs in Nevada. Believe me, I've checked all through the state, and ours is a bit more extensive than any other smoke alarm program that I've found out there. We started back in 2006, which is a long time now, but back in 2006 as just a community fire safety education program for smoke alarms, and it's transformed into a multifaceted safety educational and installation program for smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, hearing impaired devices, and much more. With the assistance of local businesses, all of our firefighters, we have installed over 3,000 smoke alarms, 671 carbon monoxide detectors, 55 hearing impaired devices in over 1,036 homes in the city of Sparks. We've educated over 2,300 children and adults in fire safety education for the home. And our goal for 2015 that we set was to reach 1,100 homes, and we're definitely on track to meet that this year, if not exceed it. And how do you rate your program to see if it's successful? Well, one way is if you have a program like this, if you have any saves. And we actually have 3 documented smoke alarm saves and 2 documented carbon monoxide saves. And so what is a save? A save means that the detector actually detected something in the home that was going on. Smoke alarms is smoke, carbon monoxide detectors of carbon monoxide, and alerted the occupants in the home. They were able to get everyone out, call 911. We showed up, mitigated what was ever going on there. Everyone was safe, and anything that could have happened in the home was reduced. So that's definitely a success for our program to show that we've had saves in this program. From 2010 to 2012, we obtained FEMA grants to start the program, and then after that, we couldn't get another FEMA grant, so I developed a golf fundraiser, and we've done 6 of them now, 6 golf fundraisers, and they've really become successful. The last couple years, we've filled the field. If you know, it takes 144 players to fill an entire golf tournament, and have done that. So it's really turned successful. This year we raised over $15,000 for the program again. It was about the same as last year as well, so it did very well. Now the proceeds from the golf tournament goes to keep our stock up on smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, hearing impaired devices, tools and equipment, paperwork, fire safety educational material, and as well as maintain our fire safety trailer that we take out to the schools and events and other fire safety tools that we have. So we continue to use that money for that. So the main reason that I'm here today is to publicly recognize 2 businesses that were our top sponsors. In the golf tournament, to become a top sponsor, it says in there that you'll be recognized at a council meeting for being that top sponsor. So 2 of the top sponsors we'd like to recognize with a plaque and a picture with the mayor, if we can, afterwards. So.
Yikes.
They're really waiting for that. The plaque is kind of...
No wonder there's only 2 of them. Probably been a lot more if you didn't have a picture with me.
Well, the golf fundraiser obviously cannot be as successful as it has been without the generous donations and sponsorship that we get from the community. And I'll tell you, we get a ton of it. We really do. A lot of businesses out there step up for raffle prizes, silent auctions, and all of that raises money for the tournament. But the big sponsors, of course, that really, really helps out the tournament. And today we have the two top sponsors. The first one is a premier sponsor, is what I called it this year. It's a $3,500 donation to the tournament. This company is ABC Fire and Cylinder Services, and they've been a sponsor with us since the first golf tournament. And so today, Nicholas Brown is here to accept a plaque and get a picture, if you'd like to come on up. Okay, our second top sponsor is a title sponsor, and they donate over $2,000 for this event as well, so it's a very big donation. Belfour Property Restoration has been with us since 2012, so they continue to be a great sponsor of ours as well. And Mr. Chris Nelson and Miss Michelle Turner is here to accept that. Two pictures. Okay. And one more. There we go. All right, just the last thing I'd like to say, if I could, is really just a big thanks to everyone in my staff, the fire department, and especially the fire chief for all the support for this program. It's definitely one that's near and dear to my heart, and it's going to continue going for really until I know that we have not hit every older house in the city of Sparks. So the fundraisers we have really helps this program stay alive.
Thanks, Bob. It's a great program, really. It is. I know you've done it for a long time. You're very passionate about it. And thanks to our sponsors. You know, we love the community people that are here. And again, thanks to the fire department and all the things you do. Any questions or comments, Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I missed it, but did you tell everybody that this is free of charge to people that receive these smoke detectors?
Oh, I did not mention that, so that's very good. Yes, our Project Safe Smoke Alarm program is free to any citizens of Sparks. We try to stay in homes that are built prior to 1994, and the reason of that is any house after 1994, by code, they have to have a smoke alarm in every bedroom and centrally located in the hallway. So we try to get to all the older homes. It is absolutely free. All the public education material we give them, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, we come in there and install them for them as well. Yes.
Thanks, Bob. Great program.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next is consent items. Anybody want to pull a consent item? If not, looking for a motion? Ms. Ratty.
Consent agenda as presented.
Sure. Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve the consent items as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.1 is consideration and possible approval of a parking agreement, AC 5178 ACSR 309, between the City of Sparks, the redevelopment agency of the City of Sparks, and Century Theaters, Inc. for use of the Victorian Square parking structure adjacent to the movie theater. Mr. Ornelas.
Mayor Martini, members of the City Council, I'm Armando Ornelas, City Planner. This item basically provides for the city to agree to provide free parking in the structure adjacent to the movie theater for as long as a movie theater exists there. The background on this is that Century Theaters leases that facility, that building that the theater is in, from Saifi Enterprises. Their lease is up for renewal next year by September, and they've indicated to us that one of the considerations for them in terms of whether or not to renew that lease is the availability of free parking in that structure, so they have requested this agreement. The agreement would not become effective until Century actually renews the lease and provides us with written documentation that shows that. Just going back a little longer in terms of the background, in 1996, when that theater was originally developed, the city agreed to provide access to Century Theaters to a 700-space parking structure, which is approximately the number of spaces that are in there. That agreement, that original development agreement, though, did not say that the parking had to be free, and so they are looking to address that now. The cinema remains one of Victorian Square's principal entertainment options, and I think the developers who are working downtown now feel that the continued presence of the cinema is important to their efforts and to the redevelopment efforts generally. And so while this is not the sole factor in Saifi's deliberation about this facility, it is one, and staff is recommending approval of the parking agreement.
Questions, comments? Okay, for me, this is it's obvious to me we need to do this. The theater's hung in there with us for a long time, and now that they are going to we're having other things down that we've tried to put for so many years, I think this will be great for the theater, and it's a good fit down there. We need to have that theater there, so this will be good to keep them around. Ms. Bybee.
Armando, did we look at, I know we were talking about, I think the discussion last time was really on the term of the agreement to 2040. Were we looking at, is that non-negotiable for the theater if we don't go that far out? I think the concern was really going that many years. And I know it's only if the theater's there would it stay, enforced. But I know there was some concern from a couple members of the council as to the 2040, whether we could do an increment and then up for renewal in a certain point in time that wasn't quite so far out.
They have not addressed that issue in terms of whether a shorter term the agreement would be acceptable to them. Certainly if that's an issue we can press it, but I don't know at this point.
Okay,
Mr. Smith.
They've already been there almost 20 years, and we've provided the parking for them like we agreed. I think that if we ever decide that we wanted to put a price on parking down there, now they've got two strikes against them when they're trying to compete with the IMAX theater. I don't have a problem with the 40 years or until they leave. So I'll be supporting this.
Ms. Ratty.
And I just want to clarify that all we're saying is that we'll keep the parking free. We're not saying that the parking is only for movie theater attendees. The parking is still open to anybody who wants to park there. It is just saying that we'll keep it free.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't vote, but I don't have a problem with 40 years either, 40 years or 20 years, whatever. If they want 40 years, I don't have a problem with that. And if they decide to leave, it's going to go, the free parking goes away anyway. So, it doesn't go away, but that option goes away, so no problem.
And just to clarify that point, it's a series of 5-year options and then a 4-year option. So the max on their current agreement with Saifi Enterprises is 24 years through 2040. So maybe that's where the confusion crept in.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. Bybee?
I think absolutely for the development that's going to be happening in downtown, it's contingent on that movie theater staying there and us not having a dark theater in the middle of what's happening with all the other developments. So if that's what it's going to take to make sure that we guarantee the theater will stay there, I absolutely support the parking garage. I just know the discussion earlier was just on the time frame, but I think it's too important to have them there to all of our other development efforts. So I can support it.
That's ready.
So to me, it's just an opportunity cost right now. It's not costing us anything. It's been free for a long time. It's not built into our budget structure. It's appropriate for redevelopment. We want to get more people downtown. I think if we start charging there's a question about whether folks will come down, and that doesn't just affect the movie theater, but it affects the entirety of downtown, and we are really doing some important work there. So I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve the parking agreement with Century Theaters.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 9.1, the parking agreement with the Century Theaters. Any questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. You next too, Armando?
I am not.
9.2, consideration and possible approval of a contract, no, you're not, AC 5190 for the City Hall HVAC upgrade project bid 1516-002.
That's
Mr. Casey, go ahead.
That's a mouthful.
Exactly. And I didn't read it all.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. For the record, my name's Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager for the City of Sparks. I'm here today to present, of course, the City Hall HVAC upgrade project for possible approval to Mount Rose Heating and Air. It was a publicly bid project, and there were 3 bids that were received on July 29th of this year. Mount Rose Heating and Air provided the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $1,014,000. The project will basically upgrade the current City Hall HVAC system that is more than 35 years old. The new system will essentially reduce maintenance costs, improve the employee comfort, and be more efficient than the existing system. Without that being the end of my presentation, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Casey? Seeing none, looking for a motion, Ms. Ratty.
How exciting.
Yeah,
How long have we been
finally
talking
there.
about HVAC? Oh my
It's
God.
been a long road.
It has been a very long road. So I'm super excited to see that this is something we're actually going to do. So I
Yeah.
move to approve a contract, AC 5190, for the City Hall HVAC upgrade project to Mount Rose Heating and Air Conditioning, Inc., in the amount of $1,014,000.
Do I have a second, Ms. Bybee?
Second.
A motion by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.2, HVAC upgrade. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.3, consideration and possible approval of contract AC 5191 for the City Hall HVAC upgrade project. Go ahead, Mr. Casey.
Again, this is related to the HVAC project. It's basically to install Allerton Direct Digital HVAC control system, along with basically redoing all the HVAC components in City Hall. And this is essentially going to streamline the maintenance process of basically adjusting the system, of adjusting the temperature. You essentially, if you adjust one area, it kind of affects the rest of the area, whereas normally the old system was just a air-actuated system where you had to go in there and manually adjust everything and make sure that it was working correctly. It's going to be much more efficient. We did choose to go with Allerton control system again because we have that on several other buildings, and it's worked very well. BCS controls, or I guess Building Control Services, which BCS for short, is essentially the only company in Nevada that can install this system and still maintain the warranty. So essentially, with that being said, that's the end of my presentation. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Mr. Smith?
Are you touching the roof?
Well,
Because you'd like to replace those. I'm just asking.
The roof on City Hall is in pretty decent shape, and we will be replacing replacing all the units that are on the roof, but the curbs are already in place. So
I'm just kidding, Brian.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion if you like.
Questions or motion? Go ahead, make motion.
I move to approve contract AC 5191 for the City Hall HVAC upgrade project to provide an Allerton Direct Digital Control System.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.3 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you
Brian.
very much.
Appreciate it. Moving on to 9.4, consideration and possible approval of a water rights deed, D 1450, to Truckee Meadows Water Authority related to previous city council action. Welcome, Mr. Hummel.
Thank you, Mayor Martini, members of council. Item 9.4 is a cleanup of action that was taken at the October 13th, 2014 City Council meeting. That previous item transferred approximately 6,000 acre-feet of water rights from Sparks to Truckee Meadows Water Authority. These are rights originally dedicated to Sparks by developers in the time period of 1984 to 1996 in exchange for water service, and then were used by Sierra Pacific to satisfy water service requirements. And the reason the dedications were done that manner was during that time frame, tax purposes. Sierra Pacific, as a water purveyor, was a private agency. The City of Sparks was not, so they would have been subject to tax where we wouldn't. With that previous item, they identified about 6,000 acre-feet and then immediately began updating their ownership and information with the state engineer, identified another 48 acre-feet, which is the subject of the deed presented today. So again, this is just a cleanup of that action.
Okay. Questions? Okay, no questions. Looking for a motion, Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve water rights deed D 1450 to Truckee Meadows Water Authority related to previous city council action.
Ms. Ratty.
Second, and a thank you to staff for waiting through this and getting it wrapped up.
We have a motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Ms. Ratty to approve 9.4. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Mr. Smith, are you voting no?
Nope, I'm voting yes.
Okay. So let the record show that Mr. Smith voted yes, and it's a 3-0 vote yes. Okay? Don't scare me like that, okay?
Wasn't me.
Okay. 9.5, consideration and possible approval of a water rights deed, D 1451, between the City of Sparks and Truckee Meadows Water Authority to transfer 213.99 acre-feet of water rights. Go ahead, Mr. Hummel.
Yes, again, thank you. Mayor Martini, members of council, again, for the record, Andy Hummel, utility manager. This is the first of 3 items got on the agenda today related to the Truckee River Operating Agreement, or TROA. TROA was negotiated over an 18-year time period, started in 1990, was officially signed September of 2008 by 17 parties. So it took a long time to get that many people to agree. Within TROA, there's a provision commonly called 1E4, requires Reno Sparks and Washoe County to provide 6,700 acre-feet of water rights for water quality purposes within the river. An agreement was reached in 2007 between Reno Sparks and Washoe County and the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe that anticipated that water rights associated with public rights of way within the 3 agencies' jurisdictions would be sufficient to meet that 6,700 acre-foot requirement. We began a research project jointly in 2007 to identify all available rights. We came up about half of what we thought we were going to get. We found slightly less than 3,300 acre-feet of clean water rights that were able to be identified. So we had about a 3,400 acre-foot shortfall. We took several paths to meet that. First path, and the subject of this specific council item, was an additional 213.99 acre-feet of water rights was identified during that research that had inadvertently been dedicated to Tumwai developers over the years through clerical errors, even though the chain of title was clear that they had been transferred to Sparks when the streets were dedicated. The second path was a $2.7 million grant or funding provided by the Western Region Water Commission to Tumwa to purchase water rights to assist Reno Sparks and Washoe County in meeting that obligation. They purchased approximately 453 acre-feet. That will be discussed further in item 9.6. And then the third path was through a $7 million Desert Terminal Lakes grant provided to Great Basin Land and Water for the purposes of purchasing additional rights for Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe for the purpose of meeting the remainder of the 6,700 acre-foot obligation. Tumwa's Board of Directors approved the sale of 2,747 acre-feet of water rights to Great Basin Land and Water on August 19th, which brings our total to the 6,700 acre-foot requirement. This will be discussed further under item 9.7. But back to this specific item, the action being requested is approval of a transfer deed between Sparks and Tumwa of the 213.99 acre feet. The rights originally identified are currently being used by Tumwa to meet water service requirements. They consist of numerous small permits to simplify the permitting process and reduce fees. Tumwa provided 4 permits comprised of large blocks of water be exchanged for our interest in the original rights attached on that deed. So that concludes my presentation on this item. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hummel? Okay, if not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
I move to approve the water rights deed D1451 between the City of Sparks and Truckee Meadows Water Authority to transfer 213.99 acre feet of water rights.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve agenda item 9.5. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 9.6, consideration and possible approval of a water rights deed D1452 of approximately 453 acre feet. Go ahead, Andy.
Again, thank you, Mayor Martini, members of council. Again, Andy Hummel, utility manager for the record. Item 9.6 is the second of 3 items today relating to the Truckee River operating agreement. This item specifically requests approval of a deed from Truckee Meadows Water Authority to Reno Sparks and Washoe County for 453 acre feet of water rights. These rights were purchased by Tumwa using the $2.7 million in funding provided by the Western Region Water Commission to assist Reno Sparks and Washoe County in meeting our 6,700 acre foot requirement. The water rights deed presented with this item transfer ownership of the 453 acre foot of rights to Reno Sparks and Washoe County as tenants in common. That concludes my presentation on this item. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions on 9.6? Not looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve a water rights deed D1452 of approximately 453 acre feet of water rights from Truckee Meadows Water Authority to the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County.
Do you have a second, Ms. Ratty?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Ms. Ratty to approve 9.6. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Andy. Got another one?
One more. Not done with me yet.
Get right out of town. Okay, here we go. Consideration and possible approval of an agreement AC 5192 regarding satisfaction of the obligation of the City of Reno, City of Sparks, Washoe County pursuant to Section 1.E.4 of the Truckee River Operating Agreement to provide 6,700 acre feet of water rights. Go ahead.
Again, thank you, Mayor Martini. Again, Andy Hummel for the record. This is the third and final item relating to the Truckee River Operating Agreement being presented today. This item specifically requests approval and agreement between Reno Sparks, Washoe County, and the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe regarding the satisfaction of the obligation of Reno Sparks and Washoe County to provide 67 acre feet of water rights as required under TROA Section 1E4. This memorializes the various ways that we came to the 6,700 acre foot. Again, we found slightly less than 3,300 under the street rights of way. We transferred the 213.99 that was incorrectly held by Truckee Meadows Water Authority as addressed under item 9.5. 453 acre feet was purchased by Tumwa, and then under item 9.6 deeded to Reno Sparks and Washoe County. And then the remaining 2,747 acre feet of water rights was purchased from Tumwa on August 19th, just last week, by Great Basin Land and Water. That was approved by the Tumwa Board of Directors for $7 million. I'd like to point out that's a definitely discounted rate that they offered to make that deal come together. So the agreement presented under this item memorializes these actions and that they collectively satisfy the obligation of Reno Sparks and Washoe County as outlined in TROA. The Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe did unanimously approve this agreement on August 19th at their board meeting. It'll be considered by Washoe County tomorrow, August 25th, and the City of Reno on Wednesday, August 26th. In closing, I do have some parties that I'd like to recognize that worked very diligently with us to bring this to a positive resolution. Those are Tumwa. A lot of their staff worked very hard with us. Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Great Basin Land and Water. Senator Reed and his office, especially Mary Conley, was very instrumental, especially in the grant funding from the Desert Terminal Lakes Fund. And then within the city attorney's office, Cheryl Lighting jumped in with both feet and really got her head around what this meant and how to get it done. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Andy? Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know how big of a deal this was and how much work everybody put into that. So this finalizes everything. And one of my questions was if the tribe accepted it, and they did last Wednesday night.
Yes. Yep.
So I mean,
bonus.
It's a bonus. This is big, and the mayor is the chairman of that committee, so he knows too. So, thank you so much, Andy.
Ms. Ratty.
Just congratulations on some of the most complex work that I've seen since I've been here, and bringing it to culmination and getting it through the process. So I'm prepared to make a motion. I move to approve an agreement AC 5192 regarding satisfaction of the obligation of the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County pursuant to Section 1.E.4 of the Truckee River Operating Agreement to provide 6,700 acre-feet of water rights.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Ratty, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve agenda item 9.7. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Andy. I want to say this is the culmination of over 20 years of work for a lot of people that have gone on and on and on. And I think the big part of this, it does a lot to increase our upstream storage for drought protection and all that stuff. So this is huge, 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 huge for what we're hopefully don't have to face in the near future with drought. But if we do, this will help a lot with upstream storage. So
Yes, it definitely makes a huge
yeah, it's
impact.
great. It's a great deal. So thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you.
I think that was big. That was huge.
Okay, moving on to 10.1, public hearing discussion and possible approval of a bargaining agreement, AC 5184, between the City of Sparks and Operating Engineers Local 3 Survey Unit, Supervisory Unit for the period of July 1 through 2015 through June 30th, 2017. Ms. Severson, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Martini, City Council. Chris Severson, Administrative Services Director. Before you have, I'm having a little bit of deja vu, a bargaining agreement between OE3 Supervisory Unit. Highlights of this agreement are a period of July 1st of 2015 to June 30th, 2017. 3% cost of living increase first full pay period of July 1st, following July 1st, 2015, and 3% following the first full pay period following July 1st, 16. It also includes no pay for union activity, group health committee representation, and that concludes my presentation.
Questions for Ms. Severson? Mr. Smith?
I'm just ready to make the motion.
Public, I do a public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
No questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council for action. Mr. Smith.
You're right. It is deja vu. We've been talking about this thing for a while now. I move to approve the bargain agreement AC 5184 between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Local 3 Supervisory Unit for the contract period of July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2017.
Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.2 is a public hearing discussion and possible approval of a bargaining agreement, AC 5185, between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Non-Supervisory Unit. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. Before you is item number 10.2 is a bargaining agreement between Operating Engineers Local 3 Non-Supervisory. Similar terms to the supervisory agreement, including 3% cost of living raises effective July 1st of 15 and 16. Period of the bargaining agreement is a 2-year agreement, and includes no pay-for-union activity. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I also would like to say that I appreciated the patience and understanding of the employees and the bargaining units of operating engineers, both units, in seeing this through.
Questions for Ms. Severson? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the bargaining agreement AC 5185 between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Non-Supervisory Unit from July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2017.
Ms. Ratty. Second. Motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Ms. Ratty to approve agenda item 10.2 AC 5185. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, now moving back to 9.8, consideration and possible approval of amendment number 1 to resolution number 3281, designating certain employees as confidential, providing salaries for employees in those positions, providing benefits for these employees, providing for the repeal of all prior resolutions related to these employees, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
Chris Severson, again, Administrative Services Director. Before you is an item providing for an amendment of a resolution that was approved by this body on June 8th of 2015. The confidential employees, there are, I believe, 5 in the city, are covered by a resolution. Due to the nature of their positions, they cannot be covered by Operating Engineers Local 3 non-supervisory unit. NRS 288-160, Section 6, provides that those employees that are excluded from a bargaining unit as confidential are entitled to participate in any plan to provide benefits for that group that they would have received if they had otherwise been a part of that group. By giving the operating engineers a 3% and 3% cost of living increase, that is different than what we had granted to the confidential unit, and we would like to provide the same benefits per NRS as they would be entitled to.
Questions for Chris? Okay, seeing none, looking for a motion. Ms. Ratty.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to resolution number 3281 as presented by staff.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve resolution number 3281. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, what we've all been waiting for. Well, some of us, anyway. 11.1, second reading, public hearing, consideration and possible action on Bill 2693, an ordinance to amend Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code in its entirety and providing other matters properly relating thereto. Mr. Rundle.
Jim Rundle, Senior Planner. Today's proposal for consideration is the culmination of approximately 2.5 years of work to get to this document, which is in your packet. From this document, former Title 20, the Design Standards Manual, the Transit-Oriented Development Corridor Standards, 3 different documents. All have now been proposed and coordinated into one document. To get to this point, staff conducted a robust public hearing or a robust public process. The outreach program included a number of workshops with the City Council, with the Planning Commission, and countless meetings with stakeholders. We also had countless staff meetings and spent numerous hours coordinating with our consultants. Angela Foos with CFA of West Sparks. She says Reno. And Mark White out of Kansas City with White and Smith. Prior to initiating this process, the City Council directed staff to initiate the development of the new zoning code, including but not limited to considerations of consolidating all of these documents, review and provide recommendations on the TOD district, clarify opportunities, provide more flexibility, and reduce discretionary review to improve predictability. The overall goal was to remove barriers to development in the city of Sparks. It is staff's opinion the proposal in front of you today implements the direction and the goal of the City Council when the City Council directed staff to initiate the overhaul to the Sparks zoning code. The Planning Commission has forwarded a recommendation of approval to the City Council. And during the public hearing portion of the Planning Commission meeting, the City Attorney Adams provided public comment on the feral cat ordinance. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, questions for Mr. Rundle? So, Chet, you have a presentation.
Yes, sir.
This is it quite lengthy? How long? What?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. And everybody else is limited to 3 minutes, and Chet, as an elected official, gets a little more time to present your case. Is that reasonable to say, Chet? Mr. Adams, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm presenting the feral cat portion of the zoning ordinance as staff.
On the other side. Okay, good. So you will have a little more time. Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Adams.
Seems like everybody has a slideshow presentation today, so I thought I'd join in.
Great.
You know, folks, the issue before you today is not whether trap, neuter, release management works or doesn't work. The issue is not the efficacy of the program. It's not about euthanizing animals. It's not about arresting people, feeding, and sheltering these animals. The issue today is one of land use and whether or not the City Council wants to regulate feral cats in the city of Sparks, or whether the council wants to allow a private corporation with absolutely no affiliation with the city of Sparks to create, control, manage, and disperse feral cats and feral cat colonies with unfettered discretion within the city of Sparks. Why is this a land use issue? Our zoning code is enacted to ensure compatibility between adjacent land uses. Sparks' current zoning code places restrictions on animals. We currently restrict and regulate the placement of dogs, gerbils, hamsters, guinea pigs, mice, rats, squirrels, chipmunks, pot-bellied pigs, domesticated fowl, non-venomous snakes, fish kept in aquariums, horses, mules, burros, cattle, swine, goats, poultry, sheep, and llamas. So really the question is whether or not you want to add feral cats to that list of animals and how they're dispersed, and to ensure compatibility with the surrounding land uses that these cat colonies bring about. Now, Washoe County has enacted a feral cat program in Chapter 55. Within that, there are no locational restrictions or criteria placed upon feral cat colonies or the practices utilized in accordance with those feral cat colonies. Washoe County Code Chapter 55 creates new liability issues for Sparks' residents, businesses, and the city of Sparks itself. Now, we've heard today about colony sponsors. Washoe County Code excludes these individuals from any type of liability, any type of ownership liability. Instead, it's the parcel owner who enjoys liability for a feral cat colony. Now, what kind of liability are we looking at? And we've heard testimony today about how these programs work, but nevertheless, I heard an admission in there that yes, cats can carry rabies. Yes, feral cats roam 149 acres. It's the average distance. So during that roaming, these cats can be carrying diseases. They can be destroying property. They can be defecating in lawns, gardens, transmitting diseases. They can encounter humans, especially children. We heard about kittens today. Feral cats are called the bridge between humans and those diseases that are carried by feral cats. They're fleas, ticks. Because people will pick up a feral kitten, but they won't pick up the vector that gave the kitten that disease. They won't pick up a raccoon or a skunk or a coyote, animals that are attracted into these colonies by the simple fact that there's free food out there. So that's some of the liability that I'm talking about. And the city would enjoy that liability for these programs in our parks, in our rights-of-way, on city property. And all you need to do is somehow know that this activity is going on in your property. Now, it doesn't say that you voluntarily allow, it just says simple knowledge. So if you go out and say, get that colony off my property, you've expressed knowledge. So we have a whole new area of liability that I believe that the city is looking at, as well as our business owners and residents. I don't believe that by enacting Chapter 55, Washoe County has the legal authority or the ability to rewrite our zoning laws, because what has Washoe County done? It has created a whole new land use in the city of Sparks by allowing these feral cat colonies to exist. It would be like Washoe County coming in and trying to regulate our gaming laws, our signage laws, our residential development processes, which they cannot do. Our charter gives us the ability to control our lands and the land uses within the city, which I believe has been usurped by Washoe County under this particular scenario. We do regulate high-risk species in Sparks. Skunks, spotted skunks, raccoons, foxes, bats, coyotes, bobcat, badger, weasel. And these are the animals that are brought in to our community. Washoe County recognizes that as well. And these animals are attracted to the food and the cats themselves in these communities. Washoe County Code disclaims the non-domesticated nature of feral cats. Our code already defines feral animals as a distinct class of animals. So you have the ability, and you certainly have the legal authority, to include feral cats into this class of animals. Yeah. Essentially, Washoe County has usurped our ability to regulate our land uses. Now, the proposal was made earlier today that you can either prohibit this as an impermissible land use, or you can regulate it the same as any other land use in order to ensure compatibility. That's why our zoning code is enacted. And I came up with some proposed feral cat colony restrictions. No colonies on public property, rights-of-way, parks, etc. Once again, to protect the city from liability. No colonies on commercial or gaming property. Only allowed in certain zoning districts. Now, this would be determined by the planning department. Again, this is nothing different from any other animal that the city has regulated. These colonies can only be established on private property with the express written permission of the property owner. That way, we have some owner responsibility. We know who to go to in the event of a problem. And Washoe County currently has a kennel and cattery permits. Anything 7 cats or more, you have to get a permit. So we take a page out of Washoe County's own code book there and say that written approval of surrounding landowners must be secured, because it's those landowners that are going to be impacted by these, what Washoe County now terms as free roaming animals. We hired Washoe County Regional Animal Services to control animals. Well, they've gotten out of this completely by redefining feral cats as free-roaming animals. And they have washed their hands from any type of enforcement involving these. Instead, they've handed them off to this private corporation. I think that it would be appropriate to set a minimum lot requirement. Again, because of the free-roaming nature of these animals and the acreage involved, a minimum lot requirement. Perhaps a distance requirement would be appropriate as well. School zones. Cats like to dig in sand and dirt where kids like to play. And unfortunately, much of this feces carries that toxoplasma, and toxoplasma lasts for up to 18 months. You bring that home on your shoes, on your hands, from your garden, from your lawn, into the house. And that's how this type of disease spreads. I think that the parcel boundaries could be signed. Who owns this colony? Who do I contact in case I have a problem? Do I have a phone number? Do I have an email? Now, Washoe County Regional Animal Services is our contracted for partner in all of this. And I don't think it's unfair to ask the WICRIS to use its best efforts to work with its partner, NHS, to relocate any colony that has either been abandoned because these colony caregivers move or become incapable of taking care of their colonies, and to work with this when these colonies become a problem within the city. And Washoe County also requires, and it's a public document, that these sponsors provide Washoe County with the locations of these colonies. And all we're asking is that our partner, Washoe County, provide us with information setting out where these colonies are. Now, I was hoping to be able to come to you guys today and say, listen, I've talked with the interested parties in this, and we've agreed to some of these conditions. But I received an email today from Mr. Ryan saying that they unanimously agreed that they're not going to accept any of these conditions, our way or the highway. So I think that the City Council, as a governing board and as that entity who's responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, take a look at this. And if there's no way to compromise on this, then make it an unacceptable land use within the city of Sparks. But as your elected attorney, I feel compelled to tell you about some of the liabilities that you're looking at, some of the problems associated with these things. And as for as many studies and surveys saying this project works, or just as many studies and surveys, whether it's from NDOW, whether it's from the American Bird Conservancy that you received a letter from, whether it's from the various groups that have provided you documents, there's scientific proof on the other side as well. So for that reason, in and of itself, I think that it's, the City Council would be well advised to look at least some restrictions if you're not going to just outright exclude this program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions for Chet or Jim before I open the public hearing? Okay. Okay, again, I'm going to open the public hearing. You have 3 minutes apiece to talk. I also have some ones here that don't want to talk, and I will announce them after we have the people that want to talk. Again, keep your comments as brief as you can to make your point. If you're making a point that somebody's already made, just kind of say that if you want. Again, let's not make this personal. This is not a personal deal. Everybody's passionate about this on one side or the other, so don't make it personal. State your facts and be humane about them, okay? So I'll open the public hearing, and I have first, and I don't see her here, Linda Patterson. Pardon me?
Linda Platchon.
Oh, no wonder I didn't see Linda Patterson here. I didn't read this right. Linda Platchon, I'm sorry. Okay, again, be ready, followed by Richard Simmons. Go ahead, Linda, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to say one thing about cats. Domestic cats inside can also carry toxoplasmosis. I've had a number of cats for years, never come across that. The other thing that I noticed that I wanted to mention is this can be settled amicably. We don't have to put the cats to death. The other concern I had, and I've mentioned it before, is that people walk their dogs around the marina. I call it the marina dog toilet. There's poop and vomit everywhere. There is poop and vomit in the school where I worked, Catherine Dunn. It's just part of owning a pet. But to take pets or to take animals that can be, some of them can be domesticated, and to say that let's put them to death, I don't know who's behind the program, but I am definitely against this proposal. And I think the speakers before me were way more prolific and spoke much better than I could speak. So I'm going to leave the time to other people. And thank you, all of you, for considering this, because it's very dear to my heart and to many other people who take take care of the ferals.
Thanks,
you.
Linda. And about the marina, all we need is people that are more responsible when they bring their pets there. There are bags and things. So I apologize that's, we need people to be more responsible. Mr. Simmons, followed by Paul Hollis.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Dr. Richard Simmons, for the record. I'll just skip my other comments this morning about my disclaimers. Earlier this afternoon, when I listed my list of significant facts, I left out their issue about the serious threat to native migrating wildlife, and I want to endorse the Ned Dowell's comments about that. I would also like to add that it might be instructive to note that People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, who, if any of you know me, is not a favorite of mine, arguably the most radical and strident advocate for Organization for Animal Rights, opposes TNR programs based on their concern for animal welfare. And it's on their website. You can look, you Google PETA and look it up. I assessed their website on the 31st of July. And further, regardless of Washoe County's efforts to codify the establishment of feral cat colonies, it is likely that the release aspect of such programs still violates the state statute that prohibits abandonment of animals. I'm aware, I think, of at least one person who has filed a request to the state attorney general for an opinion, whether that's the case or not. Previous I'm blanking Dick Gammett's title, county attorney.
District attorney.
District attorney, thank you. His office issued an opinion that this was, in fact, a violation of state statute. Finally, I would say that adoption by Sparks of this current proposal would not necessarily interfere with Washoe County and the city of Reno getting the grants to pursue their interest in this program. I'm not sure there's ever been an official declaration that Washoe County is a no-kill county. In fact, when this was brought up to the county commission a number of years ago, they turned that phrase down and they elected or selected the term, it was we are pet-friendly community. But there's never been an official declaration by the county commission that we're a no-kill county.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Paul Hollis, followed by Greg Evangelatis. Greg, don't beat on your phone like that. Just turn it off, okay? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Paul.
I'm Paul Hollis from Rail City Garden Center. We've been involved with, I'm here about the poultry, nothing to do with cats.
Okay. Good, that's good. Change the subject, that's good.
So I want to talk about the changing of the poultry ordinance and bringing Sparks into the modern world. And compliment the staff on putting the workshops together. I guess we're considered a stakeholder in it or something like that. So we had some small meetings and we came up with some very reasonable things. The most important thing is there's no roosters. The ordinance change will be just chickens, no geese, no ducks, no slaughtering. It's just people that want to have 2 to 6 chickens in their backyard. Once you go beyond that, it's a whole different world. It does not supersede any CC&Rs. So if your CC&R says you can't have chickens, you're out of luck. So you have to move to another area. I think we've done a good job at Rail City with the education, and I forwarded the list of over 60 people that we collected through the radio station and coming into the store that support it. It's people that want to grow their own food. 2 chickens laying an egg a day is over a dozen eggs. Nobody can eat that much, but 2, 3 chickens is very reasonable. The other thing that was involved with the 2 pages that I was concerned with were the bees. That was very reasonable, very manageable, and the community garden. Since we can't have community gardens in the city of Sparks, this would allow, the changing of the ordinance would allow it. And all the restrictions are there. Certain size compost piles, signage, fencing, it covered everything that allowed for this. And I think it was very reasonable the way the ordinance was written. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for your work on that ordinance, too, by the way. Greg Evangelatis, followed by Lisa Smith. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the record, I'm Greg Evangelatos. I'm an independent planning consultant in Truckee Meadows. Just wanted to focus on the rewriting of the zoning ordinance and nothing else. Very complimentary of the process. I think Mr. Rundle and the team have really streamlined and incorporated a lot of the contents of all those documents to where they're now internally consistent. And since I have some knowledge of the zoning system before, and it was in place before I even worked for the city, that's almost a 40-year-old document. And so it needed to be revisited in light of the evolution in Sparks. The only comment I would make, and I'm working with some people on some properties in the Prater corridor that are professional office, and I'm operating under the assumption that drive-through is accessory to the underlying use, because I know there's some concerns about drive-through and the dominance of an auto-centric community, and I know we're trying to move away from that, but where it's accessory to a bank or an underlying use, I think it's completely appropriate. And I think that this document is a much more reasonable approach to land use, and I think your staff's done an excellent job. That concludes my comments.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Lisa Smith, followed by Trish Swain. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, my name's Lisa Smith. I'm actually not a resident of Sparks. I live up in the North Valleys, but
we'll
my
have to fix that, Lisa. What the heck's the road?
Okay. Yeah, my parents live here. We've lived here since '79, so I'm kind of representing my mom.
Okay.
But the thing with this is I'm against the, any needless death. I think that there can be shades of gray, but people tend to look for the easiest and fastest route for something to happen if they don't want to be bothered with it. And that's almost what euthanizing an animal is about. But, I worked at the Kmart distribution until they closed their doors in January, and I adopted a feral cat who turned out to be pregnant, but I had that aborted. So you got to pick your battles where they are. And I just think that once everybody comes together and they think about this and brainstorm ideas, from what I can see about people, we're very arrogant. We look at things and we have to own it. We have our fences, we have our zones, our wards, whatever you want to call it. But every day when I go to work, I count how many rabbits are dead on the road that people, too busy to even slow down. And I hear stories about the coyotes eating the neighborhood cats. There's signs up all over the place, and And when they started building the Petco out there, all the birds that lived in the dry Silver Lake bed, you know, they're migrating to the houses and stuff because they're looking for the water as their ecosystem is being destroyed. So I just want to lend my voice and say this is something that I don't agree with, and somewhere, I mean, it may not be what everybody wants, but there's got to be a medium ground for not destroying somebody's life. And like it was pointed out, you know, when I take my dog for a walk, people don't clean up after their animals. We go to the dog park, people don't clean up. They shut down the areas where the dogs used to be able to play because people are pigs. And I mean, it's a horrible assertion to say, but it just doesn't seem right, and it's kind of me rambling, but you know. So I'd like to thank you for the consideration of hearing what I have to say, and I know when people look at what is out there, they already have their mind made up. So it's almost a courtesy that you're listening to us speak about it. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Trish Swain, followed by Margaret Flint. Trail safe, right?
Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
I'm not here for that.
I knew I knew that name.
Well, anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Yes, today I'm representing the League of Humane Voters of Nevada, the Nevada chapter, and we are firmly in favor of the TNR programs, and we do have 1,500 Nevada subscribers who would agree with that position. And I have nothing to add to Kevin Ryan's summary presentation because I think that he made excellent logic and excellent case for the program. So I will be brief. I will say that I volunteered for the program a couple of years ago, and I was struck by the tremendous care and consideration that these animals are shown. And I want to praise this program for that aspect of it. For instance, I've been involved, as you know, through my tail-safe activities with the kind of trapping that is very harmful and painful to animals. This is so different. To say trapping is hardly covers the situation. You have a cage trap that is not going to close on any part of the animal. You put it out in the neighborhood, and the caretakers, I've met the colony caretakers on several occasions, they know their animals. They know who's a pet, who's this one, who's that one. They're amazingly well informed, and so they show you where the best place is to set up. You put the cage trap out there. I used sardines, and that seems to be a very good bait. Mm-hmm. And you don't just leave it like, for instance, with wildlife, you leave it for 4 days. So an animal could be sitting in a trap for 4 days. In this program, that is so far from the situation. You are there. You're watching from your car or from some vantage point. And as soon as a cat goes in, you're there. So that animal doesn't have to be nervous or scared. You go in, you put a blanket over the cage so that the animal can relax. Then you take it, and if it's during the day, now this was a few years ago, so maybe it's changed, I'm sorry, but this is my memory. You take it straight to the veterinarian at the animal shelter. Animals spayed or neutered, they don't even know, they're like lifted out of their little element, and then they get their shots, and that very day they are returned to the territory they are familiar with. And if it happened, as it happened with me, it was too late, so I kept them overnight in my garage. And it's amazing to see the difference between a feral cat and a house cat, because the feral cats would not interact with me. They went actually. I want to say catatonic. They showed no reaction. I tried to give them water. I tried to tried to get some reaction from them, and I couldn't. They just go absolutely blank when they're faced because they're terrified. So you just make it as easy on them as possible. You keep that blanket over the cage. You take them in, and they're treated with every consideration. So I just want to say that. I want to describe to you what a caring and well thought out program this is.
Thanks, Trish. The problem is, I like sardines too, but I can't get my head in that little small hole.
I'll bring you some.
So you could make bigger cage, maybe? Margaret Flint, followed by Krista Wirtz. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. This is the first time I've come before you. You
Happy to
have a
have
nice
you.
cozy little chamber here, too. For the record, my name is Margaret Flint. I represent the Nevada Wildlife Alliance along with Canine Rehabilitation Center and Sanctuary. First of all, let me start out by telling you that regardless of what you want to call this, whether it's a land use bill, this is definitely an animal issue. It inadvertently brings animals into this, and therefore it absolutely positively is an animal-related issue. Secondly, we have most of the problem that I have with this is the definition. And when we go into the definition of what a feral cat means, it says a cat that exists in an untamed state, or a cat that has returned to an untamed state or is no longer considered domesticated, or a cat that was previously residing in a domesticated home and has been abandoned by its prior owner. Can you imagine that? How about that little old lady that recently passed away and her grandkids came in and raided her house? They wanted everything except her cat. This cat falls into this category. I've been communicating with Senator Mark Menendo, and there is already a bill draft request has been submitted to revisit feral cat management in 2017. I've also talked to Assemblywoman Jill Dickman and Assemblyman John Moore, who are also very interested in this concept and are interested in entertaining the idea of co-sponsoring this bill. So any action that you do take on this bill now, you may end up inadvertently having to revisit again in 2 years. I also want to talk a little bit about the funding since that was brought up. And because Washoe County has been named the #1 safest place in the nation, in the entire nation, if you're a homeless animal. And that funding doesn't just affect the Nevada Humane Society. That funding, because of that status, affects every single animal rescue-oriented facility in the county. Canine Rehabilitation Center and Sanctuary, SPCA, even Washoe County Animal Services is affected by that funding. So that's something you need to take very seriously. It's not just one thing, it's many. I start thinking about these numbers and numbers that are thrown at us about how many wildlife-related animals are affected by this, and I can't help but wonder when these numbers were created. Has anybody looked at these numbers since the Trap Neuter Release Program came into effect, and are those numbers, can you take those numbers now and compare them to before the program? And then you start thinking, too, do we have a breakdown on these numbers on what kind of other predatory animals are in this equation? How can we actually take and equate all of these billions, supposedly, of songbirds and other small wildlife animals and say that all of that has been affected by feral cats and feral cats alone? We've got snakes. We've got coyotes. We have lots of predatory animals that could probably fall into that equation. I think this is an issue that really needs to be addressed more closely. There are too many small things that can inadvertently get caught up in this. And that's why I think it's so important. Ms. Bybee, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, you brought up the idea that maybe we should take these four sentences out, amend that out of this chapter so that it wouldn't complicate the rest of this land use bill. And that's exactly what you should do, and let us revisit it in the legislative session in 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. Krista Wirtz, followed by Mel Belding. Krista is not here. Okay, she is against the new ordinance that we want to propose. Mel Belding, is he here? Again, he's opposed to the, oh, you are here, okay. Welcome, Mel.
How are you?
Good, sir, how are you?
Great. Mel Belding, Washoe County, lifelong resident. I do not live in the city of Sparks, but I have lived in Washoe County my entire life. I'm a wildlife advocate. I build hundreds of guzzlers every year for bighorn sheep, antelope, quail, chukar. I am against the program to introduce feral cats into public property. I asked a question to the man who gave the presentation for the Humane Society. I also talked to him at the legislature when we testified against the same program. I get the same numbers all the time, but I'm not given the methods of the methodology of how these surveys are taken, the time of year they're taken. Is it taken the same time of the year every year? Are we taking this in the winter when feral cats are sometimes in hiding on the river? My concern is with the wildlife. What a person wants to do on their own private property, that's a completely different situation. I'm not given that answer. So I have to question that these feral cat population is actually decreasing. When I fished the river system for my entire life, and I do not see a decrease in the feral cats. I see an increase. I think that if there was a way that we could say, you know, you guys can have your feral cats on your private property, but there must be a program put in place that we remove these cats from public grounds for wildlife. 33 species, 2010, have met the brink. They're extinct. We'll never get those birds back. By the year 2020, how many are we going to have? 2050. These are not just numbers that people have thrown out. These are actual accredited numbers from bird societies. How much pressure can we put on wildlife? We just had a presentation given about, well, let's see how many other predators are taking out birds or taking out ducklings or goslings. But it's the same attitude. Don't hurt the coyote. They're not hurting you. Don't hurt the cat. They're not hurting you. So how do you control the populations for the prey? How do we help the prey? We have to. Everybody wants to put laws in place to protect the predator, but there's nothing in place except for how we police ourselves for the prey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have Rex. It's hard to read. Rex Flowers. Come on down, Rex, followed by Deborah Banks. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. Rex Flowers, Director for the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. You heard earlier today, we've taken a position against feral cats and in all legislative meetings. I would like to say that if you don't have a regulation for feral cats to have feral cats, then don't create one. If you're going to create one, you're going to create more regulation in how to handle the situation with feral cats. That's going to mean you're going to need more enforcement. Everything you're going to do is going to create more of a financial burden on you, more of a liability upon yourselves. So it would be easier to go the other direction and not allow for feral cat colonies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Deborah Banks, followed by John Potash.
Just a couple things. I do realize and appreciate the people of City of Sparks and all their work on the zoning commission and the zoning laws. I applaud you. I just wish you had had the meetings that you have for chickens and bees that would have been held for feral cats. The feral cats was slipped under, was never agendized. It's not on the website yet. As of Sunday, it was nothing except in the minutes and the video. We never had a chance to talk about this. The way you let the people that were concerned about chickens and bees, glad you got your wish, but we were silenced. And that's an outrage. Another thing, dirt is poo. When you put your hands into dirt, you are putting your hands in earthworm poo, bird poo, cat poo, dog poo, the goats that wandered 2,000 years ago, poo. Wash your hands when you play with poo. You know, it's what I do. I've been bitten, scratched. I clean up poo. I even clean up my neighbor's backyard because he doesn't like cat poo. And I want to work with him, okay, because I have outside cats. another gentleman said, do you want a bigger bureaucracy? Because this is what you will create, a huge bureaucracy. I thought we were trying to get smaller bureaucracy. The Department of Wildlife, the bird study, has been debunked several times. It was a study of studies. That's not scientific. PETA actually kills more domesticated pets than they adopt out. They even lure pets off of porches so they can get them and kill them. TNR is not abandonment. TNR has a caretaker. TNR has someone watching. No one's abandoning these cats. Somebody is watching them. And Dick Gamick also said that the Washoe County could write an ordinance that would take care of the legality of having feral cat colonies. It's in the last paragraph of his statement. So all these objections, all these things, please let us have a workshop so we can come together as a community and talk about it. I would like the whole section taken out because it was never really publicly talked about, so that we can figure out a way where we can work with things. And by the way, we are the cause of all the deaths of the songbirds. If you look at the Alberta tar sands, the boreal forests are where our songbirds go to breed. That is what's causing it. When we build buildings, when we build subdivisions, when we take away the trees and the wetlands and all that, that is the cause of the loss of wildlife. We are in the 6th mass extinction. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deborah. While you're helping your neighbor, could you run around the marina a little bit too and help out there?
I don't do dog poo. I only do cat poo.
Okay. John Potash, followed by Nancy Salmon. Oh, John is not speaking? Okay, all right.
Hello, John Potash for the record. Thank you for having us here to speak on this issue. There's a lot of people here speaking on behalf of the cats. I would like to actually speak on the native wildlife that is being decimated here. Brief history on myself. For 15 years here in Washoe County, I did wildlife rescue and rehabilitation, as well as have a background in wildlife biology. So I've seen a lot of this damage firsthand. So I just wanted to talk on a couple of points that I heard today that weren't really explained as much as I would have liked. One of the statements said that cats that are fed will not hunt birds. That is simply not true. Anybody who has ever owned a cat has stories of their cats bringing home birds, mice, rabbits, lizards, and instead of eating them, they leave them as an offering for their owners. Cats hunt prey. It's just in their instinct. And they are also one of the few animals that will hunt for sport. Feeding and vaccinating the feral cats simply just keeps them healthier, which allows them to hunt more efficiently. It was also stated that removing cats from an area creates a vacuum effect similar to what has been experienced with coyotes. For those of you who don't fully understand this concept, it's the idea that specific resources in a territory will regulate a population level of animals in said territory. When animals are removed from the area, the animals that reside in surrounding territories will flow in to fill the void, basically osmosis. That concept is proven for wildlife that has indefinite populations and territories. However, that does not apply to non-native animals with finite populations. And before I get lynched here, just for the record, I do love cats. I've always had cats growing up since I was a child, and even to this day, I do keep them indoors to prevent them from hunting animals. And I'm definitely not advocating that we should go out and kill all feral cats. The TNR program may or may not work. I've read a lot of literature to both ends. And I agree that's simply better than doing nothing at all. However, I do believe there are other options out there as were presented, and I think we need to consider these other alternatives. And I just want to say I commend you guys on taking the initiative to address this very sensitive subject. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I have Nancy Salmon does not want to speak, but it says here, my position is in favor of banning the TNR program. Is that okay? Chris Vaught, Not speaking? In favor of ban on except certain areas, ban on except certain areas, okay. Fred Bowles?
Yes, good afternoon. For the record, Fred Volz. Historical records demonstrate that for 10,000 years, feral cats have been living in proximity to humans, and what do you know? Both are still here. They're alive, and they seem to be thriving. The frenzy about alleged rampant feral disease is nullified by the fact that 0.05% of the feral cats examined before spaying or neutering had to be euthanized for medical issues, according to the organization Alley Cat Statistics. You can see how ineffective mass killing is by referencing the Nevada Wildlife Commission's programs. A recurring commission program to eliminate coyotes with wide-scale contract killing has had exactly the opposite effect, as remaining coyotes do compensate by increasing reproduction. And speaking to the legalities of the issue, I would like to pose the question to all of you to think about who would enforce this new code. Sparks has many unresolved and visible health and safety violations. Who will cite Sparks residents attempting to help the helpless in this situation of the feral cats if current code enforcement efforts are inadequate? And I'd also like to query the city attorney if he has actually prosecuted wildlife for its failure to conform to the city code. Counselor, and I would encourage you to think about that legal concept. Also, from a legal perspective, will Sparks be dealing with wrongful death lawsuits from cat owners whose cats are killed by the city? 2 years ago, Carson City put a dog to death that escaped its fenced yard. The owner offered to pay the fine over time, but the city-run shelter at that point chose to kill the dog. The city had to settle for $41,000 of restitution, hundreds of invested staff hours, and considerable bad publicity, which still lingers in the community 2 years later. And these were all the negative results. Does Sparks want to be known for killing or protecting life? The feral code changes deserve to be voted down in their entirety as imprudent public policy from fiscal, efficacy, and humane perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nicole, please, no applause, please. This is not a game show. Nicole Nichols. Did I say that right? It's Nicole. Okay, well, sorry. Nicole Nichols, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. My name is Nicole Nichols, and I am a resident of Sparks. I'm also come at this from a very unique perspective. People go into people are in animal welfare, and therefore are very passionate about feral cats. It's because they're in animal welfare, they are passionate about feral cats. I actually became passionate about feral cats long before I moved into animal welfare. I actually am an employee of Nevada Humane Society as well. And my husband and I bought our first home, and unbeknownst to us, it actually came with 2 feral cats. Not knowing what to do, I had no idea about feral cats. I knew nothing about them. I started to look into what options were available for these cats. We didn't look for them, we didn't ask for them, we didn't create them. They were just there. And through my own research and seeking out solutions for these cats, I did discover that as a responsible community member, the only thing that I could do was trap, neuter, return. That it was the only option and the only way, I believe, that we can reach everybody's goal, which is to decrease the number of cats in our community. That is our goal, and that the best way to do that is through trap, neuter, return. Yeah. It seems to me that this proposal is predicated on the idea that these feral cat colonies are created, but they're not. They just exist. And they exist wherever there may be food or water available to them, as in the backyard of a home that I had just purchased. These cats, unfortunately, cannot differentiate between commercial property, private property, or public property. They cannot request written permission to exist where they live. My concern about this issue really is more for my concern for the community in which I live. I do know that tens of thousands of Sparks residents are members of Nevada Humane Society. And these members, these are people who receive care and help for their pets from programs provided by Nevada Humane Society. And these are services that they may not be able to receive otherwise because they are too expensive. And these services are what's in danger. Millions of dollars are provided for these services to the community members of Sparks. And those dollars could be lost, could be in danger if we are not able to continue the same life-saving efforts that we have been providing for years. And as has been said many times, one of the legs of the services of the work that is done at Nevada Humane Society is trap, neuter, return. And if that were to disappear, it would be very detrimental to our community and to the residents of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, now these cards that I have now, we have some more speakers. Which one? The one that you gave me? Okay. Okay, Kevin wants to speak. Can't read the last name.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Kevin Ryan for the record, CEO of Nevada Humane Society. I'll be very quick because I was already given an opportunity to speak, but I just wanted to clearly state Nevada Humane Society, our hundreds of thousands of supporters are against the passing of this ordinance as is. This is and with all due respect, as pointed out, I don't think we're a private corporation with no relationship with Sparks. We have an intimate relationship with Sparks. We've been here since 1932. We have tens of thousands of members in the city of Sparks. We have tens of thousands of donors in the city of Sparks, and we have tens of thousands of people who access our services in the city of Sparks. As well as I mentioned earlier, we have millions of dollars available for services to the people of the city of Sparks. So I don't believe that we're a non-interested party or a contractor, and I think, we are reflective and really the fabric. We are made up of the fabric of this community, which certainly includes Sparks. And I'm from a big Irish family where anyone uses one word when they could have used and dinner was like an argument sport. My grandmother used to say, "So what's your point?" And my point is, let's look at the force and effect of what this ordinance will do. Washoe County's not going to drive out Washoe County Regional Animal Services and pick up these cats. All that's going to happen, should this pass, is these cats will not be spay-neutered, they will not be vaccinated, they will reproduce at a rate of 20%. None of those are in dispute. These are all, again, I know there's a lot of facts being thrown around, but those are things that we know to be true. The TNR program provides the resources available to reduce this population. And again, this ordinance, all that will be done is take away the care, the resources, and the volunteers who make this program go. Again, that's the final result of this program. And what will eventually happen is the population will exponentially increase at 20% a year until we do have to start euthanizing cats. And we certainly appreciate everybody's input into this program, but you'll notice that no one else has provided. They say there's other options. No option's been presented. Because the only option available is euthanasia, and no one wants to sit at the dais and say euthanasia is the right course of action. But there is not another option. I don't have 600 acres of enclosed space to house feral cats, as well as that's not going to reduce the population. So unfortunately, TNR is what's available. TNR is what's readily available, and TNR is where the funding lies. So, and again, I beg you to maintain this community's place rarefied in animal welfare and humaneness, as well as protect this community's millions of dollars that will flow to this community this year, next year, and the following year. And let me make it very clear, the collaborative that has made this happen is Washoe County. So should Sparks pull out and make feral cats illegal, this money will go away, and it will go away instantaneously. Thank you very much for your time.
Judith Snell, followed by Karen Jacobs. And the hands just keep on.
Council, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to address you. It wasn't my intention to address you, but people sitting behind me, we just keep making all these notes. No, that's right. No, that's wrong. No, I don't agree with this. Well, what about this? Well, nobody answered this question. I have some questions that I'd just like to throw out. If there is a source where these were answered, I'm not privy to it. I searched your website. I did what research I could. I came up with nothing. These are a few of the questions that I would have for you, and that would be, who collects the feral cats? Who arranges for the euthanasia? Who pays for the euthanasia? Where are the bodies stored in the event that they have a carcass and you have to wait till you reach a certain weight to call the crematorium to come and get them? Where do they get stored? Is Washoe going to store them? The Humane Society going to store them? Have you considered the impact of collecting and killing of cats? That the impact will have on children, because it will have an impact. We're trying to teach our children kindness. Has anyone considered that those who care for these animals will be moving in colonies into Reno? You know, the cat doesn't know which side of the street he's on, and it would be really a great compliment to both cities if we had agreement on issues. Where does the money come from if you need additional vet services to perform euthanasia? What I'm asking you for is to issue until you've had an opportunity for some public meetings to address the public. We have ideas, you have ideas, we have issues, you have issues, but I don't believe they've been vetted. And I think that Reno is also influenced by the decision that will be made by the Sparks City Council. I reside in Reno. Many of the people behind me have attended meeting after meeting after meeting on animal issues, and we will continue to do so, because while it may be a land-use issue, as your attorney would like to advocate, it is an emotional issue, and boy, do we show up. And we'd like to show up again and discuss this with you so that we might be able to reach the conclusion of a win-win. There's just too many issues on this table to use a broad brush. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, Karen Jacobs.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Council. She covered some of my questions to you, but please don't pass this ordinance now. Let us all get together, everybody in this room and everybody that couldn't come here today. We can come to terms with this without killing all of these cats. It's not their fault. We made this problem, as many people have said. This lady said, yes, we teach our kids kindness. That's what I'm going to do, is go in these schools, teach these kids kindness. It's going to take a movement. Let us be that movement. Please cancel this today. Please don't vote on this ordinance today. Let us get together. Let us come as one. I beg of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Janelle Richards.
Yes, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am definitely a proponent of helping the feral cats totally and completely. I take a little bit of issue with the city attorney, making it sound like that they're roving in packs of wild animals through the streets of Reno and Sparks, taking on our little kids and eating people up. Well, they're not doing that. I happen to be a recipient of the TNR program. I've had 2 litters born in my backyard from feral cats. 2 mothers that were barely out of their teens, seeking refuge and sought my backyard. They had their babies under my deck without my permission, of course. But I was able to contact and work with the Nevada Humane Society. It is a fabulous program, the TNR program. They give you the traps. They show you how to set them up. You, as Trish said, you take them in that day they're taken care of. They come right back home to you and you feed them and what have you. I've had 3 wonderful families that have lived in my backyard. And I have 1 currently living back there that was trapped and rescued by a Humane Society employee who I have a relationship with, and she asked if they could live in my backyard. And I said, well, of course. But I have 4 indoor cats as well. And I have to tell you that if those 4 cats had not found me or I found them, they would have all been considered feral. They were all orphans. They were all out there in the wild, but they are 4 of the most fabulous cats I have could ever imagine to have. And I just think, what if they had been killed and not had the chance to live and thrive? I think the problem is education. I think we should all be putting our money behind education. If the people in the community knew about the wonderful programs with the TNR situation, they'd know how easy it is to get the feral cats fixed, to get this population cut down. And they need to know about this. This is a program that needs to get out there. And I didn't know about it for a long time until I needed it. I also want to say that I am a big animal advocate and involved in many animal organizations, and I frankly get tired of going to appear before government agencies because they are wanting to kill our animals. I wonder when and if we're ever going to realize that we all belong to this planet. Both animals and humans inhabit this planet. We are here to take care of them, but they have as much right to live as we do. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to read one into the record. Dear city leaders, my name is Sandra Gerhardt. I am a long-time 40 years property owner and business owner in the city of Sparks. I feel certain you are aware of the fact that feral cats are a nuisance in Sparks. They are also a non-native, therefore an invasive species in North America, including Nevada. They are harmful to native species, not limited to birds and small mammals. The fact pertaining to the TNR program is a legal issue you must address. I am writing because of the personal impact this program poses for me, my tenants, and my finances. I wholeheartedly support the ban on this inhumane and non-effective program. I'm a responsible pet owner. My cats and dogs are under my control at all times. They're a part of my family. Feral cats have been a nuisance on my property. My tenants have called me and asked me to solve this issue. I feel very concerned about potential lawsuits, but more importantly, risk of the injury to the people and pets. My request is that you, as our leaders, consider my and other owners' dilemma. I don't claim to have the total solution to this problem, but TNR is not the solution. Please support the ban and ultimately the law. Sincerely, Sandra Gerhardt. Okay, Linda McCormick. Again, hard to, is it Linda? Lindell. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here late since I just got off work, and so I'm going to assume that other people have already addressed whether this is a necessary law, an enforceable law, and I think more importantly as a taxpayer, an affordable law. I do live in Sparks, but I also pay taxes to Washoe County, which includes funding that goes to animal services, and I think we all know that animal services will pick up the cost for this if it passes. My concern, though, in addition to all those others, is about my domestic cats. I don't see any language that says this is how you tell that it's a feral cat colony, or how you tell it's a feral cat. We know, I mean, and I've done trapping. It is sometimes very hard to tell up close what's a feral cat and what isn't. But I have a domestic, spoiled kitty with a tipped ear, a limp, a broken tail, and a banged up eye.
Is its name Lucky?
Who anyone would look at and say, tipped ear, looks scruffy, must be feral. You know, if I put food out for him on my front porch, am I setting up a colony? If my neighbor's cats come by and help themselves, as they do, and they are also domestic, am I setting up a colony? Do I have to worry about my neighbors, you know, if they don't like the color I paint my house or they don't like my spoiled domestic fuzzies, calling and saying, hey, I think she's got feral cat colony. How do you tell, given that most colonies are invisible, most feral cats are invisible? I'm concerned about, you know, whether I'm going to be required to register my cats, whether I'm going to be required to microchip all of them, you know, whether I'm going to spend time going back down to the pound and saying, excuse me, that's my cat and he's domestic. So I would, you know, question this bill in its thoroughness of, you know, description and enforceability as well, with concerns for those of us who have not feral cats. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have some cards here that say they do not want to speak. If I call the name out and you change your mind, you want to speak, just stop me, and we'll put you aside and let you speak. Jesse Gypsy Taylor wants to keep TNR. Karen Swift is in favor of TNR. Joel Schwarberg is in favor of TNR. Charlene Hadwin is in opposition of feral cats. Okay, you want to speak? Okay. Charlene, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Charlene Hadwin. I'm the Executive Director for the SPCA of Northern Nevada, and thank you for having this hearing today. I've sat here and I've listened for a number of hours. I'm new to the organization and relatively new to animal welfare, but not to the caring of animals. I've listened to the testimony today, and it seems to me that really what we need to do, and I would encourage you to think about this, is to come together in an educational format to discuss what the current TNR practices are. If you don't like it, let's have an open forum to discuss how we should change it so we can get the effects that we need in order to save these cats in your community. There are a number of best practices, as Kevin has illustrated in his discussion, that have gone on throughout the country. In Reno and Sparks, I was born in Reno, I was gone for 30 years, I came back, and I love this community, and I love the fact that everybody comes together to come together with positive solutions. And I think that that's really what needs to happen. With all due respect, Mr. Adams, I think you're misinformed with regard to what your perceptions are of how TNR should be run and about colonies. And so I would encourage everybody to come together, and I'd be happy to facilitate this discussion. We have some experts on the board of directors of the SPCA who have been involved in this issue not only here locally, nationally, but internationally. And I think we have some solutions we'd like to bring to the table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with those that do not want to speak, Elaine Hummel is in opposition of killing stray cats. Celeste Mills is in opposition to killing stray cats. Jody Prisbury is in favor of TNR program. Gloria McClay in attendance with, says here in opposition to the TNR program. I'm not sure that's Right, but I'm trying to make out what they wrote. Nancy Sinkula is in opposition to feral cat colony ban. Whoops. David Santula is in opposition to feral cat colony bans. And the next to speak is Ardina Perry. That's the last card I have, so if you want to speak, fill out a card, we'll get you on. Or if you just want to not speak and...
The thing you do have to say my name, Gino Greenhouse. Wouldn't that have been funny if I'd have missed that chair? Thank you. For the record, Ardina Perry. I really wasn't going to speak today. It came up because we have a whole lot of talking about killing, and this is about land use. It's not about killing. And I'm part of a group. I'm very open about it. I'm part of a group of 18,000 people, and the name of our group is Keep Cats Indoors, Keep Them Safe, Keep Them Loved. So we're a group of people who truly love cats. And they're all watching, so hi. This is not about Sparks killing cats, and I don't like having the conversation hijacked away from what it is, which is a land use issue, into a killing cat issue. We're not killing goats, we're not killing horses, we're not killing burros. We're simply saying this is not an area that we want to go with our land use, and that troubles me that that's getting lost. I've been sitting back there forever with this broken neck. I'm totally numb, so I apologize for gyrations. But one of the things that I will get probably, and I average about 100 emails a day on this, when I get home, and I hear this over and over, why are people talking about killing? We're not. We turn down adult bulk stores all the time. We've never killed an adult bulk store owner. We just say you can't do business in Sparks. So I'd like to keep this on what it is, which is a land use issue. And to the person that cleaned up her neighbor's yard, I think that's marvelous. However, I don't let my animals defecate in my neighbor's yard, so I don't clean my neighbor's yard. I keep my animals on my property. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Milholland. Brenda, I had your card, but you said you wanted to speak on number 13. That's why I didn't call your name, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Brenda Milholland. I am opposed to the euthanization of our feral cat population. I work with the Humane Society's Trap and Release program. I didn't write anything out. These are just notes that I took that ran through my head. Euthanization did not work in the past, and it will not work now. Where am I here? We have worked so hard to become a progressive city, this will set us back decades. The ordinance against abandonment of animals is not enforceable. I see it all the time. When the economy fell, there were tons of animals that were abandoned. And how do you enforce that when people leave town? They don't leave their name with their animal. So how do you enforce that? It's not possible to enforce it. Let's see. I'm speaking from my heart, and I have cats that were strays, feral cats. And the last stray cat that I adopted is the most loving cat that I could ever have. He is not lucky that he found me. I am lucky that I found him. Thank you, and I hope you do not vote on this today, and you give us time. I did not hear about this until Saturday. I have not heard anything about any kind of programs to talk about this. The Humane Society is a tremendous asset to our community, and I hope that you consider that these are animals that are living, breathing, feeling things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Linda McCoy.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Humane Society. I live in Washoe County. I have had feral cats for 13 years. In the 13 years, and as soon as I found out about the TNR program, I have been helped immensely. I have other neighbors that have feral colonies, and we have never had any recourse from other neighbors that live by that do not have feral cats. TNR program is a wonderful thing to have. It keeps the population down. It helps take care of the animals. I have signed a contract for a year to maintain my animals, to feed them. They have shelter, they have water, and they are very happy animals. My family and I will continue, as long as we're allowed to keep feral cats. We will continue to work with Washoe County Animal Society, and anything that is needed, if I have to speak on their behalf, I will be more than happy to. I hope you will understand that these animals are not vicious. I started out with the colony because people kept dropping cats off. I will not see an animal ever go hungry. I don't care if it's a cat, a dog, a horse, whatever it may be. But I, like others, would like you to take into consideration the fact that what's going to happen with these animals and with the people that care for them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, that's all the cards I have. Anyone else want to speak? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Ms. Ratty.
I'd like to speak. So, wanted to start by publicly thanking responsible pet owners everywhere. So, thank you for those of you who have pets and take care of them. The next thing I wanted to do just real quickly for the benefit of my information is, if you're here today and you participated in the series of hearings and the same conversation that happened in the Washoe County Commission in the Washoe County Chambers, regardless of which side of this issue you're on, would you please raise your hand? Just curious how many of you participated in that process. Okay, thank you. So I'm baffled, frankly, about how we ended up here today. I believe that it is the role of the City Council to set policy for the City of Sparks. I believe that we delegated the animal services function to Washoe County, and that Washoe County is doing an admirable job, frankly, of administering that function. I believe deeply in public-private partnerships. I think that we have intractable social issues across the spectrum that government will never be able to solve alone, and that we regularly, as local governments, partner with nonprofits to solve those issues. You could take the Economic Development Authority of Washoe County today, that is a tax-exempt nonprofit organization that we partner with to solve economic development issues. You could talk about the homeless shelter and the series of 4 or 5 nonprofits that we partner with to deal with the intractable issue of social services. The issue of feral cats is an issue that is created by people, and it is an intractable social issue. I agree with the comments from the people who are concerned about wildlife, that you can make the argument that feral cats are an invasive species. What I don't agree with, though, is that this is a land use issue when we use terms like establish feral cat colony or introduce feral cat colony. Cat colonies are not established. We do not go gather up 15 cats and say, here you go, there's a cat colony. Irresponsible human beings abandon their pets, and then there are feral cats who colonize. All this program is doing is a practical, common sense method for reducing the 4 to 6 kittens per year that each one of those cats could produce. And so, because of all of that, I continue to be baffled as to why we're here. The City Council heard a presentation from Washoe County Animal Services and chose to pass on our thoughts and take no action. It's been insinuated here today that, with all respect, that Nevada Humane Society has somehow been non-responsive and being unwilling to negotiate to a policy agreement. Well, I'm a member of the City Council. I set policy guidance, and I never asked anyone to negotiate with the Humane Society to set policy because, frankly, I don't believe it's our role. I believe it's Washoe County Animal Services and the Washoe County Commission's role. And the Washoe County Commission voted 5-0 to pass these ordinances and to support trap, neuter, and release. So, frankly, I believe we've wasted all of your time. I absolutely appreciate that you came out. I absolutely appreciate and I stopped counting at 150, the 150 plus folks who wrote me in support of this, of saying that we should not be dealing with trap, neuter, and release in the city of Sparks, that we should not have this in our ban. I thank you for taking the time, but frankly, I apologize because we're wasting your time. This was handled at the county commission, and we do not need to be doing a repeat. It's a waste of everybody's time and resources. So I apologize if I sound a little bit irritated today. I am. But I'd like to debunk something from some of the other positions. I sit on the Washoe County Board of Health. Trap, neuter, and release has been in place for 16 years. We have 0 reports of the transmission of rabies from a cat to a human being. We have 0 reports of toxoplasmosis transmission from a cat to a human being. There is no public health issue. Now, again, I'm sympathetic to the wildlife issue, and for those of you who are here advocating on the wildlife issue, I would suggest that you go back to Washoe County and that we talk about some common sense areas where we could all agree that feral cat populations should be managed more aggressively. If we need to take a look at the river, if we need to take a look at sensitive habitats, I'm all for that. And I would say let's do it here, but frankly, it's the county commission's role. And so I would ask you to go back to the county commission and ask the county commission to look at that because it's their role. So again, I want to thank Jim Rundle and the staff for doing an amazing 2-year process to update our zoning code. And I want to apologize to him that all of that work seems to have been obscured by one issue that has nothing to do with all of that process. And I would like to hold up the chickens and bees as the way it's supposed to be done. You notice it, you have public hearings, you invite people in to have a conversation. And that's what the county did on the trap, neuter, and release issue. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm a big supporter of the work that we've done on the zoning code ordinance. I will be supporting passing the zoning code ordinance. I would like to see us remove the 4 lines that have to do with feral cats that were added during the during the Planning Commission meeting. I would like to again put on the record that the City Council did not ask for that to happen. And then if there are other members of the council that want to see this brought back at some future date, I'm willing to go along, but frankly, I think it's a waste of all of our time because this issue has been resolved at the county and we don't need to talk about it again. But I'm willing to go there if that's what folks are interested in doing. So that's where I am, and thank you for your patience while I got that off my chest.
Ms. Bybee.
Thank all of you who are here today, who are watching on TV, the hundreds of emails I've received, especially since Friday. I landed Saturday from Shanghai because I still work for the airline, to almost 200 emails, which I've tried to respond to all of you to acknowledge the concern and the input. And it's a highly, this is tough. It's a highly emotional, people are passionate, and they're passionate on both sides. And when we get emotions involved, sometimes it's hard because our logic doesn't always, it gets a little drowned out by the passion. I do appreciate, too, today the fact that you were respectful of each other, of people that didn't agree with you. And I think, you listened to the mayor, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the letters that I got that were not attacking or threatening me, but were simply stating what your opinion was in a respectful manner. That goes a long way. I think how we treat each other, we talk about how we treat animals, it's how we treat each other, too, that's paramount to working together as a community and as a humane community working together for the betterment of the people who live here and the animals that live here too. As an animal, lover, a long time, I've had dogs my whole life. I've had animals, and I appreciate that. The issue today, first and foremost, on my priority is the 2.5 years of work that's gone into the zoning ordinance changes. And I've heard from some of you who are waiting for the zoning changes because you're trying to build things and you can't, or you're waiting till that happens. I don't want to hold that up. I don't want to postpone the work that planning has done to make changes that were needed for the betterment of our city by this very emotional issue that I think needs to be taken into account separately. I do appreciate those of you, and I'm leaning towards not only I'd like it removed so that we can vote on the rest and get that enacted, because I think that's critical today, but I think on this feral cat issue, several of you talked about willingness to come together, and I'm a big one on, I'm really believe that compromise and trying to find win-win solutions, which I think there are win-win solutions. I appreciate, our city attorney did bring some proposals forth. I have a letter from Clark County Commissioner June Kiliani, on how they dealt with it down in Clark County, in the unincorporated county, and then in North Las Vegas and Las Vegas, and things that they looked at and the success they've had, but they did address issues such as wildlife habitat and sensitive areas and where the colonies could exist. And I know that some of you, even with Humane Society, told me about colonies that have been moved. And if it was a nuisance at someone's property, the ability to move them. I think those are really important things that we could address, and I'm in favor of coming back with this. I'm also not in favor of voting today because there's only 3 of us here, and every one of the 3 of us votes. We don't have 2 voices here that I think are important that all 5 of us make this decision because it is a big issue. But I would like to look at community forum, vetting it more like we did with the bees and the chickens, which was before I was here. But I think that's an important public process because your voices as well as other people, let's see if we can come back together, more information, more compromise, and reach a decision separately. But I am in favor of voting for the zoning ordinance today with the removal of this section solely and coming back to this. And we're looking at October before all 5 of us are here. That gives us some time to possibly do some public meeting and vetting in the meantime. And that's really, I think that's important to make the right decision that hopefully we can work together and come to something that everybody is happy with, and not that half of the people, or whatever the numbers are really angry about. I think we can do better than that.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I too had emails. I had over 400 emails this weekend. Sitting next to my phone, it kept beeping, and I'm going, oh, there was another one. And most of them were respectful. Some of them weren't. They accused the politicians up here of being politicians and not listening to the to what they wanted us to hear. And it's completely the opposite. We are listening to what you're saying, and we need to make a responsible decision. I think it's a shame that the feral cats, especially the feral cats and the chickens and bees, have hijacked what our staff has done for this ordinance. It should never have happened. The feral cat issue was kind of put in there. We found it, 4 lines, and we're going to deal with it as a council, a full council, as far as I'm concerned. I do appreciate everybody coming here today, and it's been one of our longer meetings, but it's fine. And we'd like to see you here next week when we're talking about something else. But it's truly a community effort for everything we do up here, and we want you to know that we are looking out for you. We're looking out for the animals, and we're looking out for the best interests of the city. So with that, I'm ready to make a motion if anybody else has anything to say.
Any comments, questions? Julia.
Yeah, I just, I did want to, again, thank everybody for their patience and their discourse. The overwhelming majority of the emails we received were very respectful, and there were a handful that are threatening. I do know that it gets to be emotional. So I do want to thank everybody for, it was a long meeting and you stuck it out, so I do appreciate that. So I'd be happy to defer to you to make a motion, Mr. Smith, if that's what you were leading to do.
Go ahead, Ron.
Just one question. Is the items on the errata sheet, are they included into the ordinance now, or do we have to include that? You have 4 or 5 items. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Of course he is.
He
wrote them. Yeah, he wrote them.
Staff identified in between the Planning Commission meeting and the City Council meeting a couple of items that we believe we're proposing to the council that should be included. They're part of the public record. If the council was to motion, I'm not sure how the motion is going to go today, but if you were to motion to approve the ordinance, based on the discussion I've heard, and you pull certain portions out, staff's recommendation would be you include the errata sheet.
Okay.
I also have one minor component that I'd like the City Council to consider. In the patio covers section of the ordinance, this did not make it on the errata sheet. This came up at the front counter last week. We had a request to construct a patio cover. The current ordinance requires that you attach the patio cover to your house. So simply the word says attached patio covers. What my proposal would be is that we would remove the word attached, and it would just say patio covers. So if somebody wants to construct a patio cover and have it that far from their home, they'd still have to meet all of the setbacks. It's staff's opinion that does work. Sorry that it did not get included in the initial presentation.
Plus, you have to take care of 4 feral cats, right?
Yes.
I don't know how to address your issue. Because we haven't seen it until just now.
Till I just brought it up right now.
Well, we've made changes before like this, have we not, at the council?
You can change it because we're doing this in the public hearing. Essentially, what I'm requesting is that we strike the word attached in the patio cover section.
Small change, we've done this before, have we not? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Made amendments like this? Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Good.
I just had a question. So what is on the errata sheet that you're...
There's about 5 items on there.
We are requesting to add some definitions regarding medical marijuana. We are requesting to add a parking requirement regarding medical marijuana. Those were already approved and vetted when we did the medical marijuana ordinance. The problem was just I didn't include them in the draft that went to the Planning Commission.
What section is the patio covers in?
Chapter 2003.
Okay.
20.03.
Okay, I'll make an attempt. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, missed that.
Okay, I move to adopt Bill number 2693, amending Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code, including the 4 or 5 items on the errata sheet, pulling Section 20.03.005C, the feral cat issue, also pulling 20.03.044, chicken and bees issue, and adding or deleting the word attached in the patio cover section 20.03.
Excuse me, it's 20.04008 for patio cover.
20.04?
Yes.
008.
You weren't even close.
Depends on how many chapters
Okay, change
there
that to
are.
20.40.008?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
350 pages, you should be able to memorize that.
Yeah, there's just a few in there. Does that cover everything?
Okay, do we have a second?
Question.
Go ahead.
I guess, question before or after second?
for discussion?
Yeah, do that.
I'll second it with discussion.
Okay, one second. We have a motion by Mr. Smith. We have a second by Ms. Bybee. Everybody understand the motion?
Can I ask one question? Do we have to bring this, do I have to give a date when we bring this back, which will be October 12th?
No.
Set it for first and second.
Do that. You can certainly say schedule for a first reading last meeting in September, second reading in October 1st. Yeah. So you could do that. You could direct the city manager to bring it back, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then I'll add that to the motion. Bring back first reading,
Seconder, okay
the
with
last
that?
meeting in September, and second reading October 12th.
Okay.
For those portions that you're
For
deleting.
those two portions.
Okay.
Okay, now, discussion. Go ahead, Charlie.
I guess the question I have is, the chickens and bees were already vetted. Is it just issues from residents you're having that why we aren't passing the chicken and bees who've been through the whole process that we haven't had? The feral cats haven't had the full process like the chickens and bees have. And I know that happened before I was here. But since we've already gone through that with the chickens and bees, is it because of continued input and discussion? I guess the reason of why we're going to include the chickens and bees after it's already been through the process is just a question.
I'm including it because I have issues with the chicken and bees ordinance. So I want to bring that back before the full council.
You want to wait and vote when all five of us are here?
Yes.
Ms. Ratty?
Yeah, along those lines, I support I really am impressed with the work that a group of folks did on chickens and bees, working with staff, and, I would love to be able to move forward on that today. And the reason I would love to be able to move forward on that today is because it has been almost 3 years now since Kelly Seals contacted me and showed up at a council meeting asking that this council take a look at urban agriculture and take action on it. And we have gone back to that stakeholder community and said over and over again, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, we're going to do it as part of the zoning code update, and it's taken 3 years. That said, another 3 months isn't going to kill us. And so what I also know is that if we take it out today, that there's a chance that it lives for another day. And I appreciate that that's what the intent is here. So while I'm not really excited about that because I've been looking forward to my fresh eggs for a while now, I understand the sentiment. If we need to go to the place of actually designating the September and October meetings here today, I'm willing to do that. I'm a little concerned based on the last meetings that we had, that we got ourselves a little sideways by fixing dates and then not really knowing what we were doing. And so I really liked the mayor's intention last time of taking out these issues that were particularly controversial, would be a particular crowd, and doing a time certain in the evening so that people's ability to participate is preserved, as well as those folks who have regular council business are not needing to sit through an issue that they may or may not have an interest in. So
Ron, you don't have a problem with an evening meeting
No,
for
I didn't
the...
even mention the evening dates, but
Okay.
just the dates.
Yeah, okay. So as long as there's some flexibility to do something
Yeah.
along that still, and we're not tying our hands today by initiating it to a certain date, then I'm happy to support that motion.
Essentially, what you're doing is you're amending the zoning code today without the provisions concerning feral cats, chickens, and bees.
Okay.
Okay?
And the other items also.
Yeah, the attachment.
The attachments
Yeah.
and the...
Okay, so you're amending the zoning code with the additional items, the errata sheets and everything. Once you adopt that, once you vote on that tonight, that code will now be solidified. You now have to seek to amend that code through a first and second reading with feral cat language and chicken and bee language. And that is the ordinance that will be considered by all 5 city council members in your October meeting. You can do that because now you are creating a whole new bill, okay, through that process of amendment. You couldn't do that last time because you had already created a bill, and you could not bifurcate that bill by scheduling a public hearing into October. You had to deal with the bill that was presented, that was approved by the Planning Commission, that was presented and read for the first time. That's the distinction.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I understand that distinction. And what I'm trying to make certain here is that if a month from now, the council's plans change, and perhaps it's not October 12th, that is the day that all 5 council members are there, and we want to do something different, that we're not locking ourselves into that second bill today by passing an amendment, or by changing this and setting a date certain for the last meeting in September and the first meeting in October.
Okay.
That if the city manager and the mayor want to change those dates, that they still are flexible to do that. That's really what I'm trying to do, because last time we got a little locked in, and I'm trying to maintain flexibility for practical matters like council attendance. And
Sure, it's the charter requires you to have a second reading on a bill at the next regularly scheduled meeting where you can take action on it, which would include moving the entire bill out. So if you wanted to set a date certain now for a first reading, and then at your next regular meeting.
I already did that.
At the second meeting, if something happens, you can continue that second reading out in its entirety on both those subjects.
And we can only go with the information we have at hand right now. I mean, the information we have is the council will be here.
Yeah. So we can do the first reading, and then we can talk about the 12th as the second reading. If something comes up, we can continue that to a different date on the September meeting, if I'm getting this right. Okay. All right. Connie, go ahead.
Just to add more to muddy the waters here. Setting up those dates, if we're looking at a public forum and trying to get public input, if we're able to do that in the next month or 6 weeks or whatever, or maybe we're not satisfied with the public vetting that we have following this, do we want to even lock into a date? We're shooting for October, but maybe the flexibility for us, because we'd like to try to get public vetting in a public forum to reach some mid-ground or some compromise within all of our views, would it be better not to put a date on that we will come back with that, but today, for today's purposes, we're voting for the zoning minus these, what he just added in that motion, but maybe not putting a date that will come back in a whole new bill. It'll be another bill that we'll bring back, and we'll do a first reading, and we'll do a second reading, and we'll take action. But do we want to lock ourselves in on a date if we truly want a public process, and we don't know how long that will take?
Mr. Adams.
The reason we are here today is not to waste your time. The reason we are here today is because this law was foisted onto the citizens of the city of Sparks by Washoe County, who usurped our land use authority. Now, because Washoe County usurped our authority, because Washoe County foisted this on us, and because Washoe, at the last minute I might add, that's why it was in the Planning Commission, because they gave it to us the night before the second reading in Washoe County in April, yes. So that required us then to go through our process with the Planning Commission. Washoe County has passed its law. It arguably did its own vetting process, and this is what we're stuck with. Now, we have to take a look at this law and make a determination how we will deal with it through the zoning process. If you do not believe it's a land use or zoning issue, then don't put it back on. But,
The way I'm seeing this, what's going on now is we're going to have some time between now and September for these people to write to the city council any kind of public input that they want to have, letters, emails, phone calls, whatever. We will discuss it on the meeting in September. Then that will be a second reading, which they will come and they will do the same thing they did today.
Okay.
They will give their public comment. I don't see us holding this up again and having more public meetings and on and on and on we go.
Good enough. Thank you,
Just the way I see it. And I don't know, you tell me, is that legal or am I off base?
That's absolutely legal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Julia.
So here's my issue. So my plans have already changed in September. I'm available in September. I was one of the folks who was holding up the September meeting of having all five council members. There's a possibility that we could move some of this along more quickly. I would also like to see chickens and bees on a separate day, or at least as a separate time certain, than the feral cat issue, because I think, frankly, the chicken and bees folks are getting swamped by the feral cat folks, and it's a little bit. I think we'll get a better conversation, a better dialogue if we can pull them out separately.
Okay.
So just to wrap it up for today, if the motioner and the seconder would be willing to just change their motion to be, let's just wrap up the land use, pulling out feral cats and feral bees. And then if we could ask the mayor to work with the city clerk.
That's what the motion did already.
Well, but we added the dates.
Yeah, she doesn't want dates.
We added the dates. And so if, then we could ask the mayor to work with the city manager to schedule those, including the city clerk, to just check again for the 5 dates and separate them out so that chicken and bees can be heard separately from feral cats. I would be more comfortable.
Okay.
No,
That's not unreasonable.
I'm not going to change my motion. If you don't like it, vote it down and make your own motion, because it's just, this is dragging on and dragging on. And there's another entity out there that does the same thing. They'll kick it down the road 4 months, and then they'll bring it back and kick it down the road another 4 months. Let's just get this over with. Chicken and bees are already separated out. They're 2 different issues. I can't see having them on 2 different dates. To me, doesn't make any sense. Sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so now I have a question on, and I guess this would be to Chet, can we consider, because these are whole new bills that are coming to amend the zoning ordinances, can they be a separate bill for the chickens and bees? They could be heard the same day as the feral cats. So we have 2 separate votes. Again, not one contingent on the other. Like today, we didn't want it contingent on the rest of zoning. Can we have them as 2 separate bills as amendments to the zoning changes that were made and discuss them on the same day, but would be considered separately?
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Okay. That's what I would support.
You know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're okay with hearing?
And that was my intention anyway.
Okay.
They're 2 different issues.
So we will break them out on those dates certain. 2 items, bees and feral cats. Can you live with that, Julian?
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to bury 2.5 years of work on the most important land use planning work that we've done in 25 years over this issue.
Okay.
I was actually trying to accelerate the process for some folks who've worked really hard with us, rather than slow down the process and kick the can down the road. But if Mr. Smith feels strongly about doing that on those 2 certain dates, I'm happy to just go along for the ride.
Okay. Any other questions? Does anybody understand the motion? You know, I almost forgot what I came here for, Jim? Okay. See no further questions, and everybody understands the motion, please vote. Whew, passes unanimously. Thank you. We're not having a closed-door session, are we, Steve? Okay, I have a couple of cards to speak.
Don't we have a redevelopment?
We have redevelopment.
Comments from the public. Anybody else want to speak on comments from the public again? Come on down.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
No, we still have another meeting.
No, but we're closing on this meeting. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Settle down. I have 2 cards on comments from the public, number 13. Who wants to speak? Brenda and Rebecca. Who's Rebecca?
Where's Deborah? Deborah's right there.
Yeah, I got Deborah.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's right. Oh, Deborah.
Okay, Rebecca Medley here. Brenda spoke. Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, I would just like to request for the city council that you not wait to talk about this at the actual city council meeting, that you actually hold public meetings where we can get together and discuss the various ramifications prior to the end of September, whatever that date was, rather than wasting all the time in the council meeting talking about this. If you pull it out and do public meetings the way they did chickens and bees, and have it separate, and do the chickens and bees separate, to where we can come down and brainstorm some ideas that might satisfy everybody. I'm with Julia Ratty, the Washoe County Commissioner is really the place to be doing this, but since you seem to want to do it here in Sparks, then maybe we need to address it. But I really urge that you let all of us talk. Maybe 1 or 2 council members come and brainstorm ideas of how we can resolve this issue, how we can protect the wildlife in sensitive areas, how we can not punish cats for something that they didn't ask to have happen to them. Or I'm not quite sure what the chicken bees thing is, but I support the chickens and bees, especially feral bees. You gotta watch out for those feral bees. You know, they just procreate all over the place.
Deborah, if there's some passion for you folks to get together for a meeting, you can let me know. I will put it on our website or whatever, that you want to sponsor a meeting somewhere that you want to have it. We, as a staff, are not going to sponsor any more public meetings. Is that correct, Jim? No, okay, I'll just, never mind. Never mind. Never mind. I will just say that. We're not going to sponsor any more public hearings, public meetings to get together. If you want to put something together, let me know. I'll put it on our website. You sponsor the meeting, you have it, you invite whomever you want from council up here to come, and we'll have a meeting. But I'm not going to put my staff through any more work on this issue. It's just, we ought to have.
Would the city of Sparks be willing to provide a meeting space?
Sure, we can probably do that. We have some spaces we can use. Sure.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
All right. Judith Snell.
Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm going to try to speak without my voice shaking this time. I've calmed down a little. But actually, in reference to some type of meeting and interaction, we're looking for dialogue. It doesn't do us any good to come here and spend more time doing the type of performance that we have mutually gone through today. We need dialogue. We need input from staff or someone to say, here's how we feel and why. And then we get to say, here's how we feel and why. Not operating under the open meeting law, not for any chance with no recourse, not for a chance with none of our questions being answered by people in authority that are in a position to pass these laws. From my standpoint, what I would beg you for is interaction and dialogue. That's the only way we will be able to reach compromise, and it will have to be with somebody that is familiar with the issue on, let's call it, your team. Maybe it's not your team, but I know what our team thinks. And so that would be my request. I'm requesting dialogue. I'm not requesting another meeting or something set. And Ms. Reddy, I've never heard you, I've never listened to you address the public before, but I'm incredibly in agreement with the way your mind works. Council, thank you very much. Please give us dialogue.
Anyone else under public comment?
You know, if I could say something, the time for public dialogue and comment for the city council was with Washoe County. Washoe County could have invited the city council to be part of all this process, and I think it's too late now for the city council to get involved.
No,
city council is risking the open meeting law problems. You got issues with open meeting law if you get council members at these meetings. Again, this is Washoe County's doing, not the council's. The council had an opportunity to be involved, and we were ignored.
Okay. Comments from the council? City manager, Ms. Reddy.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I do have some concerns. I know, too late. And probably beating a dead horse is the worst possible analogy to use in this particular topic, but so be it. I have some. I completely hear what you're saying, Mayor, and I personally do not want to spend more staff resources on doing this issue because I don't think it's the city's place. I think it's the county's place. But I do have an open meeting law concern that if a group chooses to sponsor a forum on this and more than 3 of us attend and we put it on our website, call it a public meeting. Don't call it a public meeting. It's going to look like a public meeting, and I think we're going to put ourselves in jeopardy of being, at the very least, the perception of violating the open meeting law, if not in actuality violating the open meeting law. So I think we have to make a choice of either we're going to sponsor a forum and we're going to notice it and we're going to do all the things we need to do, or we're going to use the public hearing on October 12th to have this same kind of dialogue. That would be my preference.
That's my preference. If you folks want to meet and send us letters or whatever you want to do, so be it. Emails, phone calls, whatever you want to do, go for it. We're going to be out of the mix until we have the meeting on September and the one on October. I agree. We don't want to spend any more staff time. Ms. Bybee.
That's not saying with the public who are out there and concerned and have your input that you can't contact 1 or 2 of us two of us, we would not be in violation of public meeting laws. So you can meet with two council people at a time and not violate public meeting, or one-on-one with us to talk about your ideas, your concerns, and where we can come to some mid-ground. So I would open that as a possible proposal for dialogue, and I'm certainly willing to talk to people on both sides to get what your thoughts are, especially those who have additional information. Although I have more information than I ever thought I'd have in my life about feral cats, I still would be willing to share some of that, and maybe that's another option that would satisfy what you're looking for.
Mr. Driscoll, did you have something? No, sir. Any other comments? Seeing no further business, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Chairperson Ratty. Here. Agency Member Lawson. Absent Smith.
Here.
Martini.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Schmidt. Absent. Agency Attorney Adams.
Here.
Chief Executive Officer Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. Do we have any public comment on the redevelopment agency agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to move forward. On our agenda today, we have an item tabled from the July 27th, 2015
Quiet, please. We have another meeting going on.
redevelopment agency meeting. Would anybody like to make a motion to pull that forward?
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Agency Member Martini, seconded by Agency Member Smith. All in favor of pulling that off the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 4.2, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, moved by Agency Member Smith, seconded by Agency Member
Martini.
Martini. You got my name wrong 3 times at least in this meeting, so I'm getting you back. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Minutes, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency of July 27th, 2015 for possible action.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
I'm going to take Ms. Bybee making the motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Martini. All in favor, please, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Business item 6.1, report of claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of July 9, 2015 through August 5, 2015 for possible action.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Martini, seconded by Mr. Smith. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6.2, consideration and possible approval of a parking agreement between the City of Sparks, the redevelopment agency of the City of Sparks, and Century Theaters for use of the Victorian Square parking structure adjacent to the movie theater.
Armando, this is a companion item, isn't it? Same. Okay, move to approve,
Second.
Madam Chair.
Motion made by Agency Member Martini, seconded by Agency Member Smith. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Comments from the public? Seeing none, comments from the agency and Chief Administrative Officer? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Hey, that's record time. How fast was